Evening, everybody. How are you, Liz?
I'm good, thank you. How are you doing?
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, really good.
It's
Yeah,
been a
no Andy
while.
tonight though. It has been a while. Yeah. So this is what Happy New Year. Are we going there?
No, it's a bit late.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we've got no Andy tonight.
No, I
Uh,
think his
First time
birthday,
ever.
Andy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in December we had our 100th meetup, and Andy's never missed one, not a single one. And today is his birthday, so he's having the night off for the first time.
Yeah.
So you've got to put
Shame
up
on
with us
Andy.
two instead.
Yeah, which is some would say the better 2/3 of DPiP, but I didn't
Yes,
say that.
I've heard it.
Um,
I've heard a rumour.
yeah. So tonight we've got two really interesting speakers and
Mm-hmm.
one lightning talk.
Yeah, full
So
house
that's
tonight.
yeah. So which is good as well because it's two DPiP regulars. So it's great to see kind of Peterborough representing. So
Yeah.
yeah, it should be interesting.
A lot of interest for these two as well, the two main talks.
Yeah.
So don't know if you want to get started or where you want to start, really.
Yeah. So I was just going to quickly go through the lineup. So we've got Jackson starting shortly, who's going to be talking about his OK Button app that he's developed and still kind of in development. Then we're going to go to we're going to have a short break, just so everyone can.
Yeah, we are going to have a break today because it might run a bit long.
Yeah, only for 5-10 minutes, so don't disappear. Then we'll go to Louise from the Alia Future Business Centre, who's going to give us a quick lightning talk.
Yeah.
And then we'll go over to Lee, also known as Metageist, who will be telling us all about his newfound journey into NFTs and CryptoArt. So if you don't know anything about that yet, then hopefully in about an hour or so you will.
Yeah, I think it's going to be some very interesting talks tonight. I think it's going to be a lot of discussion as well about these two. So
yeah, I think this is going to be one that kind of runs quite late. So
yeah, it could well do. Yeah.
Yeah. Should we just have a bit of a nod to our sponsors who have kindly supported us in this journey? So if I get my really awkward sponsor notes up.
I don't know if everyone knows. So I was just going to say, because I don't know if everyone knows that we are a non-profit community interest company. So we do rely on sponsors and sponsorship from corporate sponsors and from kind of funding streams. So it's something that we like to do, and we like to say thank you because it helps us bring our events to everyone for free. So
absolutely,
yeah.
No, that's a good call. So first up, we've got Marmalade. So based in Peterborough, Marmalade provide insurance and cars for learner drivers, new drivers, and young drivers. They've been supporting us for a good couple of years now. They saw what we're doing for Peterborough's digital community, and they just wanted to support us and help make the community aware of their business and any potential career opportunities. And then City Fibre. So most people who come to DPiP will know who City Fibre are, hopefully. They're the UK's leading alternative provider of wholesale full fibre network infrastructure.
That's a mouthful.
I know. My notes here are painful, but there we go. They've got major fibre infrastructure projects across 51 towns and cities. I think they've actually got more now since these notes were made. Including over 120 kilometres of network in Peterborough. They provide a full portfolio of active and dark fibre services to customers, which include service integrators, enterprise and consumer service providers, local authorities, and mobile operators. I don't really know what all of that is, other than normally if you're on City Fibre, you've got really fast internet. So that's my take on it. Compare the market. So I think everyone knows of the Meerkats. Compare the Market are one of the UK's most loved price comparison websites. They're actually based in Peterborough and Shoreditch, but Peterborough's the better office, I think. They've grown rapidly over the past 11 or so years, and provide customers with an easy way to make the right choice on a wide range of products, including motor, home, life, and energy. And normally, if you take out a policy with them, you get a meerkat as well, which is nice. And finally, 20i. So if your website matters, so does your hosting. 20i deliver premium hosting experiences that you can build your reputation on. 20i's expert UK support team are web hosting enthusiasts with rave reviews. You get help from real people who love what they do, and the responses aren't canned. 20i give back to the web community by sponsoring events across the UK, just like ourselves. Do you want to do this one, Liz?
Yeah, sure. So obviously, because we've had the pandemic, we've made the decision to move our events online for now. It seems the better thing to do and the safe thing to do until we can, get back into a venue and start seeing people face to face again. So really, this is just a little message to kind of say, that we're adhering to the roadmap that's been set out, and we'll be online for the foreseeable future. But we will let you know if we decide to move back into an actual venue and hopefully back to Bewitched at some point as well. So
yeah, absolutely, that'd be good. Brilliant.
Yeah, so the only other thing I was going to mention is just a little bit of housekeeping, is that just to let you all know, this is being recorded. It's only our faces and these speakers that will be recorded. You're not going to have to be on camera or have your mic on unless you want to when we move over into the other area, the social area. And as far as I know, that bit's not recorded.
No.
So yeah, so it's just us. So there's nothing to worry about there.
No, that's good. Right, so shall we bring Jackson on board, and go over to his talk?
Yeah, sure. Oh, and feel free to leave any comments and questions in the comment section.
Yeah. Hey, Jackson.
Hey, guys.
Hello.
This is
nice to see you.
That funky.
Yeah, I thought I'd go for full color scheme. So I've got the purple screen and the purple hair and the purple slides and some purple backlighting as well, which it's just there's a definite theme going on here.
This is good.
Thanks. Oh, you miss seeing you guys at Bewitched.
Oh yeah, it feels really weird to not be there. Actually, it's really strange.
This is nice though. It's nice to be able to hear and see people that I know.
Oh, that's good.
Crowd, so
that's
cool.
No, well, I think moving online, it's obviously a lot of people have been doing the Zoom thing and having a lot of meetings, but we were a bit worried about kind of that whole screen fatigue. But if for the time being, it seems like the right thing to do, getting back on. So we're very happy to have you here.
Good, thanks. Yeah, I usually wear glasses, but if I wear glasses, it just reflects so much of what's going on.
I'm worried about that.
You guys are right, I think. Yeah, there are only blue light glasses because of the screen fatigue. Sitting in front of a screen all the time.
Mine too. Yeah,
they're not special. They're just But for Zoom meetings, and especially recorded ones, it's not as good. Cool.
Right, should we go to your talk then? Right, we'll hand you over. Put you to the centre.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to this. This is I'm usually it's like standing in front of a screen. Also, because my camera's mirrored, I'm going to gesture a lot to that way. I think it's this way. So this is going to be fun. Anyway, thanks guys again for bringing me in and giving me an opportunity to talk about this. It's a really exciting project that it's kind of exploded a little bit, and it wasn't really a big thing until sort of end of last year. And it's kind of gone, let's actually do this. So this is going to be a bit of a walkthrough of where I've been with it, what happened, how I got there, a bit about where I am now and what's happening next and how our development's going and things like that. But also, I kind of didn't want this to just be me talking to everybody going, hey, I'm doing this cool thing. Everybody hear about my thing. I kind of wanted this to be a little bit more of a talk on how I got here and how actually it can be applied for other people who might want to try out doing their own ideas, or maybe have a crack at building something themselves, or starting up a new idea, and so actually how kind of accessible it is. It's not going to go into too much depth because I'm very conscious that we haven't got a massive amount of time. So as much as I would love to expand on all the different pathways I've gone through to get where I am, I think if I go down there, I'm going to need a good few hours. So let's not do that. Cool. So obviously, as Josh said, I'm a should we say DPiP regular? I'd say so, pretty much. I've been going to DPiP for ages, and I've been part of the sort of the team, and I've been there, and I've done photography, and I've helped out. I've done a couple of talks as well, and it's been ages since I've done a talk. So I was kind of nervous, but actually now having to seeing people is like, actually, this is fine. I can manage this. So a bit of my background, because people probably don't actually know who I am and what I do. I live in Peterborough currently, and I run a business called Rise Labs. We're a software and development and app development company, and we produce all kinds of different software, platforms, systems, apps, websites, all sorts really. If there's anything to do with tech, probably got involved in some shape or form. And we tend to get involved in quite crazy stuff. And that's kind of my background. I don't really sort of bore everybody and like, oh yeah, this is all about me, because it's a small team I put together, but it's more about this new project. So my background sort of involved in this. This is the first time I'm building a product. So I have built a company that is now a team of, there's like 5 of us in our core team, and then we're extended. We've got about 4 or 5 other people who are contractors who work with us on a regular basis. It's growing quite fast, and we're growing a lot this year. We're a service provider. So we build other people's ideas, and we're really good at taking someone's idea, writing it up, turning it into something, and then delivering a product or a service at the far end, and then kind of handing that over. And that's then that person's business to start up. This is the first time I've built my own product. So my background isn't in this at all. So I'm kind of learning a lot, and effectively building a product business is completely new to me. It's not something I've done before. So this is kind of new ground. And the sort of who I am and who are we? Well, it's mostly us from Rise Labs. So it's my teammates and my colleagues that work with me on a regular basis that I've brought in to help me build my own idea. That gives me an advantage, obviously, and I'm probably at a slight advantage compared to somebody who's come up with an idea, comes to us, usually aren't in a position where they've got their own technical experts, they've got their own project managers, they've got their own designers, and so on and so forth. So I do have that as an advantage, but it actually is quite accessible, and I'll get into that in a little bit. So this is who we are currently. Obviously myself, I don't know why really I need a picture of there. I'm obviously part of the team. And then I've got Alina, Alex, Alex T, and Alex D. At the moment, we are, I could say, the core team of the OK Button. It was an idea that I came up with a couple of years ago, and I kind of sat on it for quite a while. I'll get to that in a little bit, but people I already worked with, I went, hey, I've got this idea. I really want to build this into something. I want to turn it into a real working product. And what do you think? And my existing team, who looks after my projects and as my project manager, Alex has been working on content writing blogs, social media stuff, and Alex, who works on a lot of our design things, kind of all went, yeah, this is a really cool idea. Probably should do something with this. Like, let's turn it into something. I've also gone on the other outside of this, and we're not sort of part of our core team, but our extended. Kaz, who's responsible for all of the branding and the style and the logo, the OK logo, and all the different colors and all the things that make it really pop. I wish I could take credit for that, but I can't, because that's all his genius work. And we've got a iOS developer, Hake, as well. He's out in Ukraine, and he's helping develop the initial version of the app. So we're kind of a small team, but it's a team of people who are really passionate and really interested and kind of excited about what we're doing. So I'm going to get into a bit about why I'm and then I will show what I'm building. The why came about more of a couple of years ago, and this is what I was saying about me sitting on an idea and not actually doing anything with it. And I really should have done probably sooner, but actually now is probably the right time. I mean, before the pandemic hit, if anyone's actually had a look into what the app is, I probably could have seen it actually be very viable before the pandemic. However, coming out of it, it may be something that hopefully is still very useful for people and people will find, valuable in their lives. So the idea came from several different sources. I don't want to get too deep into mental health, and I don't want to get too deep into my sort of backstory. A lot of that's online, and a lot of that's available to read, because it can get a little intense quite quickly, and I'd rather keep this a bit upbeat. But the original idea came from the fact that I was going through a bit of a difficult time. Yeah, let's say that. So a lot of things were changing in my life. I was moving house. I was moving out of relationships. A lot was changing. The business was going through a lot of fluctuations. I had things happening, things not happening, kind of a lot on someone's shoulders. Cutting a long story short, my contact with people wasn't great. And one of the main people that I like to keep in contact with was my mum. And she likes to hear from me, and she likes to keep in touch and make sure that I'm doing okay. And when I started talking to other people about this, I also got this common theme. I had a friend of mine who also, she was very bad at keeping in touch with her mum about when she got home late at night. Her mum would worry, stay up all night. She'd text, she'd try and ring. Obviously, her phone was on Do Not Disturb, or she wouldn't answer. And she'd be up sick all night. And then in the morning, she'd come sort of tail between her legs and go, yeah, I'm in a lot of trouble because I didn't text my mum and she stayed up all night, and she was going to start ringing hospitals to make sure I hadn't, ended up somewhere. Which is, when I started talking to other people about it, it seemed to be quite a common thing. Us not being good at communicating with our loved ones and friends, myself included. I wasn't great at it. And during that sort of difficult time in my life, my mum worried about me a lot. She wanted to make sure I was okay, and she wanted to keep in touch. She wanted to kind of just check in. And I kind of didn't really want to have a big conversation. I wanted to let her know that I was okay and that everything was going all right in my life. But I didn't really want to answer the question, why was my text message really short? Why was it just, I'm fine? Why was it, I'm okay? And it usually would be followed up by a question. It would be followed up by a question of, oh, are you sure? Are you sure you're okay? Is there anything wrong? And like, I'm not. Maybe there was, and I didn't really want to talk about it. So I kind of came with this idea, and it started to mull together and go, we should build something. And out of that, I came up with this concept. And I really wanted to keep it really simple. And I just called it the OK button. In fact, originally it was just called the OK app, or OK something. I hadn't really decided on it yet, but I really, really simple premise of an application that allowed somebody to connect to another person and just let them know that they're okay. And that was it. So there wasn't a massive, communications. There wasn't a massive amount of energy and effort. So I'm just going to hide the chat window there because I've got a habit of like reading chat messages and then wanting to respond, but I'll come back to Q&A in a bit. Without a massive amount of complications and just a really simple one-to-one or possibly one-to-many. So actually I might wanted to let a couple of people know that I was okay. Like my mum and a couple of my friends just know I'm okay. They just want to check in. They wanted to make sure I was doing all right. They didn't want to have a big conversation about it. Simple. So I'll share with you what I built. Well, I say what I built. Actually, this is not me. I came up with a lot of the initial ideas, but I've really leaned on my amazing team to start to put together some of these ideas into real things. And this is the stuff we started producing. So we started designing up this application that effectively had a big button. And the button you would press, and if you had added some contacts, it would announce that those contacts have been notified that you're okay. And then you could dismiss that and then close the app, put your phone back in your pocket, and don't worry about it. And in that moment, you were just letting people know you're okay. Originally, this was geared towards mental health. It was very much geared towards people in maybe not a great time of their life and wanting just to keep in touch, like a sort of digital tether to the outside world and friends and people. And I kind of wanted that to be the main core of it. But over time, it started to expand and change and grow. And we realized, actually, there are quite a few other areas and people and markets. I say markets. It kind of grew into markets. It went, actually, we're going to turn this into a full product, and we're going to put it up, and hopefully people will download it and use it. That was kind of the original objective, and it's kind of grown a lot since then into, hey, actually, I think we should turn this into a full-blown, like, whole new business and a whole new brand. That's kind of where I am at the moment, and that's getting bigger. But initially, it was mostly geared towards mental health. And then we started thinking, well, what if I stepped off a plane and I just wanted to let my friends and family know that I had landed? Like, I'm not in a necessarily bad place at all. In fact, I might be in a great place. Like, I've just stepped off the plane. I am ready to hit the beach. I'm excited. I've got 3 or 4 people texting me going, have you landed safe? Are you okay? Oh, I heard there was a storm, etc., etc. And you just want to go, yep, beach, and go. And that's another area we started thinking of. And then we started thinking, well, what about people who go to festivals? You know, that kind of want to keep in touch with people back home, but kind of don't want to like waste time texting everybody because, you know, things are happening and it's really exciting. And it kind of grew out of what I wanted as an app into what actually lots of other people might want to app. And that was really something important to me. I didn't want it to be all about like what I wanted to build. I wanted it to be built for other people that might be valuable. So yeah, that's where we are at the moment. And this app here, this is now in its development stage. So we've been building this initial version and we've really slimmed it down to have some just basic features. We don't want to go too mad too soon and have too much stuff in there. So we're going quite simple initially, and then hopefully it will be bigger over time as more people ask for more features and we can start to grow it and produce it, develop it into more extended features like reminders or location-based reminders, or even we're hoping that we want to be able to somebody to share their location. So it'd be direct, so one-to-one, so I can go, well, I'm okay and I'm here. And that goes then straight encrypted to another person at the other end, and they're informed of where you are. It's not a trace location, so it won't be constant. It will be when you want to send it, you can send your location. A bit like the way like WhatsApp works at the moment. One thing before I sort of clear off this and go on to a bit more about building your own idea is that this kind of concept, in theory, is entirely possible with an existing device. Now, I could set up a Siri shortcut or Android shortcut and have Siri automatically generate a text message and send it to 3 or 4 people. However, if I try to explain that to my mum, saying that's what I would like you to set up so that we can keep in touch easier, it ain't gonna happen. She's okay with tech, but she's not great. And I think she'd worry. And this is the thing with my mum, is that she's a big worrier. And I think if I explained, oh, I'm going to set up this automation on your phone, you press this and it does loads of things, she wouldn't like that. And she'd worry that it was going to the wrong people, or it was not working properly, et cetera, et cetera. So I wanted to build something that ultimately my mum could use. And I think this is where we've got to. Now, I'm going to go into a bit more about the kind of build your own idea. So this is a new venture for me. It's a new adventure even, or not so much of a venture. This is an adventure for me, and it's pretty new. I'm learning a lot of new stuff. Like I said, not built a product before. This is all new. And I want to kind of inspire other people, if there's an opportunity to do so, to have a crack at doing some of their own stuff. You know, it doesn't have to be a complicated app. It can just be something. If you've had an idea and you think, like, I would love to see this in the real world, like get it out of here and get it out onto paper. And there's so much you can do before you need to start looking at other people, bringing on expertise, bringing on developers, et cetera, et cetera. You can get really far. And there's a lot of tools out there that let you build stuff, prototype stuff, et cetera. So this kind of like applies to starting up any idea. So if you're starting up a new business idea of some kind, there's always going to be this common questions. And these are just ones that I wanted to share, which I had to really think about, which was, you know, okay, so you could mimic this behavior with default iOS and Android methods, but is that easy and accessible? no, is this, what we're building is more easy. So looking at see if there's actually a market out there, do people want it? Does it already exist in some capacity? Actually, yeah, there are other apps out there. There are other safety check-in apps. There are other security check-in apps. There are ones that are designed for parents to track their children. They're all very, very security heavy. And our take on it was that we wanted to go down the more, I guess, open route. We didn't want to be too security heavy. We didn't want to be too security aggressive and all about safety and tracking and things like that. We wanted it just to be a really easy way of just going, yep, I'm good, I'm okay, and keeping it really simple. And then asking yourself, who will I need? Can I do this myself? What skill sets have I got? Like, there's so much I can do, but I can't write Swift code for the iOS app. That's wandering out of my expertise. I could probably learn it, but for what I wanted to achieve, I don't think that was going to be possible. But I have built apps before. I built them using hybrid tech, and actually hybrid technology is really, really accessible. A lot of stuff now is quite visual, sort of plug and play and just drag and drop. And you can create prototypes, you can create working models of things with not a lot of code effort. So it's quite viable. But the reality of this is money. And for me, that was the main reason why I didn't start this idea sooner, because I needed some really skilled people on my team to be able to make this work. I didn't think I could pull this off on my own. And the last thing I wanted to do was build something that was going to be weak in kind of anyway, and not as effective as, I kind of hoped it would be. So finance was a blocker. I had to wait until I could get the capital together to be able to afford a developer, the capital together to get to do the UI design properly, because I did a little bit myself, but I needed somebody who was more of an expert in that area, who could really think about how it's going to work. There's also things that like I've listed here that you might not think about, such as market research. It's actually quite a time-consuming exercise. Looking at all the competitors out there, looking at the market, seeing if an idea that you want to build is actually viable is quite exhausting. And I'm, not ashamed to admit that's something I didn't really do a lot of. And my team member, Elena, has taken over that aspect of market research, competitor analysis, and looking at all the price structures and subscription models and what everyone else is doing and where their funding comes from and grants and all this kind of stuff. And I didn't do a lot of that initially. And having someone on board who is really passionate about that has helped a lot. And yeah, those are things like marketing, social media, creating graphics, creating brand. All of these things, of course, have costs, but it doesn't mean that you have to go as far as we have now. And what you're saying is actually something that's effectively 6 months worth of work between 4 people. Early on, this was quite basic, and I'll share with you what this looked like. So this was stuff that I'd sketched out, but I'm not going to take credit for the sketching. Sorry, I meant in Adobe XD. So I was messing around with some early concepts. I was messing around with how the button might look. I didn't know whether it was going to be animated and whether it was going to be a solid button. I'm just trying to avoid sort of skeuomorphic design. I was trying to keep it very flat and simple, but I just wanted a bit of color. And I was being scrappy. And there you've got some sketches and things from Kaz. And Kaz, when he was coming out with how to do the name and the brand and what style and ideas we were coming with, he was trying to explode that into a brand of some kind. And it really helped catapult the whole idea forward, because it gave us a real help with knowing what it was going to look like. But effectively, I kind of sat on this. I sat on it for a very long time, kind of 2 years. I think I came up with the idea sort of 2018, and it wasn't until last year that I decided to actually start doing something real. Those ideas I'd sketched out in the previous slide, I just put those together roughly one day when I was just thinking about it, and I hadn't really done anything else. I hadn't really pushed the idea. And I've got planned there twice, because you can kind of sit on planning for a long time. And it's good to have a plan. It's good to have a battle plan, but it can make you procrastinate, and it can stop you from actually doing anything, which can really slow stuff down. So my kind of main advice really that's from my experience is kind of just do something. Like, even if it's sketching stuff out, do something. Put something down on paper, write it out. As soon as something it goes out of your head and it goes onto paper, or it goes into a document, or it goes into some design tool, even if it's crude, even if it's really basic, there are loads of design tools out there, and I'll share some with everybody after the talk as well. Got sort of resources I want to share with people. But there are loads of stuff that let you prototype stuff, sketch out ideas, try things, all sorts. And if it's the case then that ultimately, like in my position, I was lucky enough that my main company, Rise Labs, was doing well and generating an amount of revenue that I could actually use to build our own product. That's kind of cool because I had capital to play with. Not a lot, and I've had to be very careful with what I'm spending. But if you were to start something up new, if you were to take those sketches, ideas, everything, potentially you could put that in front of an investor, or you could put it in front of a grant provider. There are some amazing grants out there for 10 grand, 20 grand. You just got to prove that what you're doing is viable with everything you can throw at them to say, this is my idea. And there's a high chance that you can get a grant through, which is pretty exciting. It means that somebody out there will give you the money to do what you need to do. So we've got loads of stuff now. We've been building up different design stuff. We've sort of moved away a little bit from strictly mental health and tried to expand a little bit on other areas that people may want to stay connected in. And we've created lots of different design work. We've got created social media work. We've created banners with logos, but all these kind of things they're very much idea, and it's very organic. This isn't what it possibly will be the final version. It's all part of a process, and I'm kind of excited to see it grow and develop. Okay. Funny enough, I was going to share this quote, and I'm sure I'll give people a chance to read it. But incidentally, before anybody criticizes this, I'm aware this actually isn't quite an accurate quote. It is part of a quote, and part of it has been tweaked because I don't think Charles Dickens was around in the time of emails and text messages. However, it was to do with telegrams. Funny enough, when I was building this slide, this quote was at the end. It was the end slide on the template I used, which was kind of surprising. And it's really relevant. One of the really big things I don't want to build, and this is something that I think about technology, is that I don't want technology to replace human interactions. If I could pop around to see my mum, make sure she was all right, and she could make sure I was all right, then that would be great. However, she lived 2 hours away, and then we went into the middle of a pandemic, which meant that she was, she's a bit older than me. She's got a couple of medical conditions, which means she's classed as vulnerable. That communication then was strictly through electronics. That was it. That's all we had. We couldn't do the face-to-face. And I'm very keen on providing an app that is the first step. I want to build something that is a movement towards seeing your friends, talking to people, having good conversations. I don't want it to be a replacement. I don't want it to be I'll just use the app because it's easier than actually picking up the phone and ringing somebody or going and seeing somebody. That is all very important to me. So I thought this quote was just really relevant. Anyway, that's kind of enough of me chatting at you. I'm going to ask Joff and Liz to come back. I haven't been reading the chat, so I quite like to do a bit of a Q&A, ask some questions and see what we can talk about. Hey, Joff.
Absolutely, yeah. Hey, Jackson. So
it's weird. I feel like I've just been talking at myself.
I think we've been nodding away in the background. So
that's all right. With a room full of people, you can generally see, who is asleep and who is definitely interested. With this, I'm just kind of staring at the camera, going, "Is everyone still there? They all logged off and left me."
Yeah,
we're still here. We're still here.
Good.
There's been a lot of chat as well.
How are you as both the client and the boss then?
Pardon?
How are you as both the client and the boss?
That's a really good question. This is a bit of a learning curve for me because I'm having to sort of detach myself a little bit because we've got people in my team who are working on this, but they're kind of reporting back to me like I am the client. So that's something I've had to kind of learn, rather than being too over involved and too active on it. I'm like, no, they trust, and I'm going to leave them, and they will present things to me, and it's kind of cool. But I've never been on this side because I've always been on the sort of service provider side. This is really new.
Yeah. I think I think it was probably about great advice from Tia. There we go. Just stop planning and just start doing.
Great advice from Tia.
Yeah.
Stop planning and start doing. Yeah. So how do you draw yourself out of that procrastination? I'm terrible for that. I'm just kind of. So I know it's a really hard question.
No, it's a hard question. It's a good question. The thing for me,
you've got more people on the team.
Well, yeah, and that's kind of what I was going to say. So the thing for me is that what made it viable and made me actually do something was the fact that I started telling people about it. So
so accountability.
I started talking. Yeah, exactly. So I made myself accountable, and I said, I'm going to build this idea, and this is what it's going to be. And they went, you should build that idea. When's it going to be ready? And I went, oh no,
panic.
I'm going to do it now. And then I've got people then, and this is a really interesting thing from us being a service provider as well. A lot of people are really protective over their ideas. If they come up with something new and they go, oh, I've got this new idea for, X thing or whatever, they don't tell anybody about it because they fear of people are going to steal it.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of, that can stop you from doing anything because you hold on to it and you keep it. The problem is someone else would have thought of it in some capacity, and they'll go ahead and just do it. And then you might have missed your opportunity to get involved. So yeah, telling people.
Yeah.
That's,
and just
talk about it. Yeah. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell anybody who will listen. Hi guys. Make yourself accountable.
That sounds like good advice.
Yeah, definitely. I think it was probably about a year or so ago when we first kind of heard about the app. I think that's kind of probably when you started sharing it in public. And I think, obviously, thinking back 12 months rather.
Oh dear.
He's still there?
Oh, no, he's still there.
I was panic.
I made panic for a minute. I was like, oh no, has my camera decided that I've had enough of this?
Yeah, obviously 12 months ago, kind of the pandemic had hit. So I think everyone was in a weird state of mind, weren't they? Everyone was kind of wondering what is going on. This is all feeling very weird. So I think at the time we were obviously stopping our face-to-face meetups and wondering what is going on. So the app felt very kind of appropriate at the time, just around the mental health and well-being side of things. So to see it grow to the other
from those initial conversations to in this year, that it's grown so much. You must be so proud.
Yes, I am actually.
Good for you.
Seeing it come alive and seeing now, I've got the first version of my phone to play about with and test out different features, and we're doing a bit of feedback, and it's like, wow, this is actually really happening. This is a real thing. Like, this isn't just an idea that I sketched down on a piece of paper and sort of hope for the best. This has now got real people actually working on it and it becoming a real product. It's a bit surreal.
Is that quite scary or is that exciting?
I think it's exciting. I'm going to go with exciting because creating something, putting it out in the world is a massively daunting thing. And for me, because of, even doing talk like this, like I've had to think about it all day and be a bit anxious about it because of being on camera and talking to people and being sort of public. And that's the same thing, I think, when you ever come up with an idea, is that putting it out there, the fear of rejection and the fear of people going, that's a crap idea, don't do that, is kind of worrying. But the problem is you won't please everybody as well. I've talked to some people and they don't get it. It's not something they'd use and they don't see the value in it. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's fine. But I've talked to a load of other people when I put it onto a Facebook post onto a festival page the other day, and I had 30 people sign up because they loved it. And that always even surprised me. I was like, I thought I might get a couple of people going, that's a good idea. I'll get that. And we had a load of people sign up for the beta. And it was kind of, I was like, oh, cool. I didn't expect the response. So And that's what it is. You can't please everybody, but you just got to put it out there.
Yeah.
I think we're getting some questions. Oh, yeah. Who's going to go?
Just have a look at what John's put. Yeah, I think everyone's kind of striving for you to carry on.
Yeah, see if there's any.
Andrew.
Thanks, Dominic.
Brilliant presentation.
Yeah, that's the thing. If you've got ideas, I said, put it out there. Start telling people about it. Like, I spun up a website and it wasn't ideal. It was kind of a bit scrappy, but it just had the idea, and it just kind of wrote about it. And I just sort of dumped stuff down. I was like, I'm just going to put it on there and fix it as I go. And it's evolved. And I think if I'd sat on it and not done anything with it, it never would have become a public thing.
Yeah. I think there's a comment from Solomon. But yeah, pretty sure most people didn't get Facebook when that started, and I think it's kind of taken off a bit now. So I think it's safe to say.
Yeah, I'm just scrolling back through the chat to see what.
Yeah, there's a good one from Andrew actually. Yeah.
From the research, what is the expected cost for the app? What value have customers put on its capabilities?
That's a good question. I did think about doing under the cost part of it. I did think about putting together. I was like, should I just talk about how many hours we spent designing, developing, writing, etc., and try and monetize it in some way, or try and show it in money value? And I couldn't really, because I haven't been very good at tracking my own time. It's very hard to attribute actually how much, I guess, value that's had. But I do know the raw development costs, and when we're working with developers, we're looking for the first version. It's going to cost about $10,000. Well, I say dollars because our developer is working in dollars. So it's about, that's what, £7,500, and that's just for the raw development. So outside of that, I've been, paying other people. My team, I pay, covering, paying for their time. Or Rise Labs is paying for their time, which is effectively, coming out of my pocket through Rise Labs, and designers as well. The design work we've done. There's a few grand's worth of design work. There's £1,000 worth of branding work. Then there's, I don't know, probably £1,000 worth of documentation just from the project management side. And then the biggest cost, like I said, is this development. We're looking at like £7,500 worth of development for this first version. That's actually probably a little bit overkill, to be honest. All of this would have been achievable for a lot less, but because I wanted to really hit it quite hard and I wanted to really invest in it, I thought, I'm gonna do this really well for the first version. Like, I pulled a load of features out. It was going to be like 30-40 grand's worth of development costs for version 1, and I pulled tons of stuff out that I really want to do, but I thought, like, this is just a big risk, because if nobody likes it, if nobody downloads it, nobody uses it, and it doesn't generate any interest, then that would have been, that would have been a massive investment. And that's a mistake I think a lot of people make. And I've worked with clients before who have made this mistake, where they listen to their customers almost too much. Like, they got to listen to people. You got to, do what the customer wants in the majority. But if you try and do everything, you will run out of money, you will run out of time, and your product won't be finished. And you'll try and launch it, and everything will be 60% finished. So I've really kind of limited this down. Thanks, Sol. Yeah, and that's yeah. It's made me accountable, and the more I talk about it, and the more now I've done a talk about it. Now, if this was to fade and I stopped working on it, I stopped doing anything about it, or I stopped working on it and publicizing it, then that would probably make me feel a bit sad, really, that I put all this energy and effort. I'm committed to it. I'm doing this. I'm going to do it. It's out there. People are expecting it almost now of me. It's like, I've got to crack on.
Yeah. What are your kind of targets for kind of recovering costs, or kind of what are you thinking along those lines?
So here's honesty time. I've done the very typical entrepreneur thing of we'll build it and we'll figure it out later. Yeah. I've gone, I want to build this app. And initially I thought, well, we'll do a first version and we might offer that first version out for free. Or shall we, charge for the first version out like, 79p or something on the App Store? Because I wanted to keep it, I didn't want to make it expensive. And you look at a lot of mental health apps in the App Store and they're quite expensive. Like they've got some serious subscription costs that are involved in them. One that I use for what's it called, note taking and mental health tracking, called Youper, is like a £10 a month subscription. Like they're quite pricey. And initially I was sort of working out whether I was going to put it up for free, or how was I going to do this? Was I going to make it available to everybody? Was it going to be a subscription? Was I going to make it cost? I hadn't really planned it out. And I started on the Alia Accelerator program. So I applied for their Accelerate program with this as the project. I said, well, actually, this is what I'm building, and I kind of need help to work out, it's my first product. How do I market it? How do I plan out the finances and everything? And one of the first things they asked me was, how do you intend to monetize it? And I think when you're building your own idea and it's quite precious to you, I think you kind of like, there's this sort of idea that, I just want to give this to the world. I want to, give it out there, and I don't want any money. I want to be a nice thing to do.
Making a difference.
Yeah, and which is a really nice thing. But then the reality kicks in is actually, well, this has got quite a bit of a cost outlay. And realistically, like if I was, if I was a millionaire and I had money to burn, then great, I would be. But realistically, I'm not. I'm we're a small team and a small company, and I haven't got an unlimited pool of cash just to dip into and play about with. And they challenged me on it. They said, well, is it going to be a business? How are you going to develop it? Is it going to be a brand? Are you going to do other things? It's going to be subscription. And it took me back a bit, because I had to really think, yeah, like, how am I going to get this investment back? And, what else am I going to do with it? But the most important thing that said to me, I think it was Emma when she first spoke to me, she said, people value stuff more when they pay for it, even if it's just a little bit. And it made me think of all the apps that I've got on my phone, and the ones that I download for free, I rarely keep. The ones I've paid for, even if I don't use them, they're still on my phone. And I do value stuff, and I do value stuff I pay for, because I think, well, I'm paying for someone's time and effort and energy who have actually produced and worked hard on the app. I don't want to do adverts, and I don't want to do any of the short change stuff that other apps use. I want it to have value, and that made me think, actually, yeah, like I should value this as a product and a service, and hopefully the people that we get it out to will also value it as a product and a service. Long answer.
Yeah, that's good.
I think that's brilliant.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's the thing. As I didn't want it, Facebook, and I think I said to you guys before we came on live, like, I don't really use Facebook that much on my phone anymore. I've got it on a 30-minute timer per day. Like, that's maximum. I let myself use it. I'm not very active on it at all. I'm kind of exhausted by the news and, all the stuff that's posted, all the things that are happening. And I kind of had to turn it all off. And from doing that, I started finding that I was texting people more to find out what was happening in the days, rather than relying on Facebook to broadcast it to me.
Yeah.
And yeah, John's absolutely right. It's not technology definitely, it's helped a lot, especially over the last year with the pandemic and with, everyone not being able to see each other. But when we can all get back out there and hug our friends again, like, I think that's going to be a really important thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, just seeing this.
Oh, got more questions.
Yeah. Question from Tia. What does your mum think of the app? And did she have any suggestions on features or functionality?
My mum is my absolute, she's #1 fan. I try to explain as much as I can about the technology, that what I'm building or what I'm doing. She won't mind me saying, but she definitely doesn't understand what I do as a day job. She thinks, she knows I work in technology. I think that's probably the extent of it. But
how many people have got families that think that they're in IT?
I've explained, what I'm doing now, showing her the concept, and she really, she gets it. She understands. Like, she uses not a lot of apps, but I've got onto using WhatsApp, and I'm starting to teach her how to use voice memos instead of sending text messages all the time, because I always send voice memos back. I think it's quite easy just to send a quick voice memo back, and she's very nervous about that. And it literally was the other day, and she sent me a voice memo that was kind of like a voicemail. It was like, "Hello, this is Mum."
Very formal.
Yeah, it was very formal. But I think with the way that we're building it, and the way that we're building the sign-up process and the steps and everything, that we think it's ideally it's going to be really easy for everyone to grasp and get. Mm-hmm. But one of the things that I was really keen on is that I don't think it's going to be sort of individuals. I don't think it's possibly like my mum, who are going to go onto the App Store and search out an app like this. I don't think she would go and do that. I think she would probably, it will be me, or take another hypothetical parent and family relationship. What I would do is I would get the app, and then I would grab my invite link from the app, and then I would send that to her. Mm. She would then follow that link, and it would set the app up basically for her. Yeah. And that was a simple concept. It would be really easy for her just to get it, even though it's not something she would actively do. I can't imagine she's downloaded any apps on her own, other than probably iPlayer and a couple of other bits and pieces, but not a lot of stuff that's any different from the mainstream.
I think that kind of answers Andreas's question.
Yes, yeah.
How did you ensure your mum could install and use it?
Yeah, and basically the idea was that the app, so this is going into a bit more detail about how the app works, but if I want to add a contact, the contact adding process isn't like via email or anything like that. It generates a link called a deep link, and then that deep link you can then copy into an email, you copy to WhatsApp, copy a text message, whatever. It doesn't really matter. You send that link, and if they've got the app already installed and they tap on that link, they'll then get a prompt to add you as contact. If yes, then you're now mutually connected. If they haven't got the app, it will refer you to the App Store. Most likely what happens then is that the person that gets referred to the App Store by somebody they trust will probably download the app. It isn't flawless. My mum is naturally suspicious, as are a lot of people when they get links to apps they don't know and have never used before. So there is an amount of brand awareness that we're going to have to go through, and that is something that I probably haven't fully figured out yet. We've changed it as well. Originally, it was going to be based on email. So we were going to get people to enter a person's email. Then our system, the backend system, would email that person with a link to setting up the app. But we thought, well, people don't really check their email that often. And, whether they do or don't, but a lot of people don't, especially if it's personal email and things like that. And it breaks the experience. It takes you away from the app. It takes you away from that sort of casual, chatty environment into emails quite formal. And it also meant that people were pumping in people's emails into our app environment, which means we had to store them somewhere, which means another piece of data that we have to protect. Mm-hmm. And we really wanted to keep it. I personally wanted to keep our data minimal. Like I don't. There's too many apps out there, and Facebook is absolutely in turmoil at the moment about Apple's changes to the tracking, and I don't want to, store too much data. I want to keep it very light.
Yeah, keep it very simple. And remove any sort of extra hurdles as well, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
it's a great question actually just come in from Dominic. So what happens if you're not okay? Obviously, do you know what?
This is one of the main questions, if not the most common question I do get. This steps back into the mental health aspect of what we're doing. And it's kind of personal. So I'm not in a position to be able to tell anybody what to do when they're not okay. And the idea, the original concept with the button, and this came up a lot, is like, oh, well, we've got the okay button. Should we have a I'm not okay sub button, or a, can I change the button to be, can I flip it, or, change it so that I'm not okay? And what worried me about that is that we're not a medical company. I don't have any experience with, I have my own personal experience with mental health, but I don't have any experience with the medical side of it. I don't have any experience with the therapy side of it. And it worried me that if we built the ability for people to say, I'm not okay, and what if something went wrong? What if our back-end system broke, or we pushed out an update at a really bad time and someone was desperately trying to reach out to somebody and our app failed? In our early stages, in our small setup, we just don't have the redundancy to cover that. We don't have backup servers upon backup servers, and the app is its very early versions. Things could go wrong, and the thought of somebody being in a not okay situation and vulnerable, and our app failing them, it was too worrying. Ideally, the kind of way I want to think about it is that if you're communicating with somebody through the OK button and you are sending your OK status backwards and forwards, and someone doesn't respond, because what you can do in the app, you can request an OK. So if you've got a contact, you can request an OK, and it will then pop up on their app saying, oh, somebody, it's anonymous, somebody has asked if you're okay, and then you press the button and respond. If you don't respond, I'm hoping, and this is what we're expecting, you'll be able to see when you last requested that okay. And if somebody hasn't responded, I kind of hope that you'd pick up the phone and get in contact. Do something else. Go outside of this app environment. Don't rely on, it's the same thing as when somebody posts like, oh, I'm fine on Facebook. Check. Like, keep in touch with your friends. Keep in touch with your loved ones. I don't want people to rely on technology to be the backup plan for that. I do want people to check in and make sure people are okay.
I think it sort of encourages that next step, actually, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think
that's what I was hoping for.
Yeah, I mean, certainly from our kind of partnership with Big Orange Heart. Actually, Dan, are you around?
In the background somewhere.
Hello.
Hello. Hey, Dan.
Hello. Welcome back.
Whole party now.
I think kind of it's that awareness of there are kind of places to kind of get support, and I think that's where Big Orange Heart certainly have opened my eyes to kind of what's available out there. So I don't know if you've got any thoughts on the app, Dan, as someone that's been in this kind of service providing space.
Absolutely, yes. I mean, Jackson, thank you so much. Firstly, for stepping up and talking about this, and being proactive. You've had a thought, and obviously you're delivering a product off the back of it. So, thank you. Obviously, there's start to see a positive impact off the delivery of these types of services. So, really grateful, and also thank you for the way you delivered this, because it was very personal. You can really tell that there's a deep passion for this, and it hit home for me personally on a number of levels, because I'm actually going through something quite similar at the moment in terms of a product delivery process, which is not something that I'm used to. But listening to the way you've been answering these questions, you've clearly thought very deeply and very heavily around the issues in relation to this app. And I think obviously what you were saying there about not being okay and how to handle that situation is an incredibly challenging question to answer when you're trying to deliver something like this, because I know from my perspective, the Big Orange Heart was born out of wanting to do something positive within our community, within our remote working community, and enabling people to talk about their well-being and their mental health. But of course, it comes with so many complications and so many challenges. So I just want to say a big thank you, really, for you doing what you're doing.
Thank you, Dan. Appreciate it.
Cool, thank you. See if there's any more kind of questions in the chat.
We did have one. Do you want me to bring up? We've got one from John, actually, in relation to partnering with
Yes. That is actually a conversation I have had. I have got a contact in Samaritans who I've spoken to and introduced the app and concept to last year. This was back in sort of July, when it was really rough around the edges. And she loved the idea, not just for mental health, but her daughter had traveled around South America. And this is why it started me thinking of different people who might benefit from it. And she really wanted she just wanted her daughter to let her know that she was okay, that she'd landed where she was supposed to land. She'd got to her hotels, hostels, wherever she was staying. It was her first solo trip, and she loved it from that side of it, as well as the mental health side. And I've also had a conversation with the deputy CEO of Mind, Cambridge Mind, and introduced the app. The thing that I'm finding a bit difficult at the moment is that a lot of companies don't. Has my screen gone dim in the background? There we go. A lot of companies, charities even, their sort of response to it so far is we love it, but we don't really either. They don't necessarily want to put their name on something unless they've developed it themselves, or they're sort of a little bit cautious. And I get that, and I understand it, and I would love it to be, if it could be endorsed by some wonderful big charity, that would be amazing. But I don't quite know. I haven't quite worked that one out yet. So actually, to be honest, if John, if you've got any ideas on how to get in there and have that conversation, by all means, let's chat about that, because I'm not quite sure how to get that one going yet. I've tried, but not got any further.
Cool. Yeah, I think you know how to get in touch with John anyway. If not,
yeah, that's a good contact. So,
yeah, good.
Cool.
Are there any last questions? I suppose. Don't think there's anything on the chat there.
I think Sol mentioned something quite early on about privacy. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know if that was in relation to my question, just asking
okay,
if people have actually downloaded it. But yeah, it was a great point in that just saying that you're using it, does that kind of, breach people's privacy? Just, I suppose it's their own choice whether they actually say that they use it or not. But.
Yeah, so that's what I was trying to work out, is that from a privacy aspect, we are trying to make it into micro networks. So this isn't a sort of public network. It isn't something you wouldn't broadcast. You're not broadcasting your status to anybody but the people you connect with. So it's not like Facebook, where you can have lots of friends, or you can publicly post something or something like that. The idea is it's very, very much self-contained micro networks, and I may have two contacts.
So it's not like you join and then you see, oh, someone else is on it as well, and someone else is on. Okay.
No. So if you join, so if you sign up from Fresh and it's the first time you've joined, you have no contacts. There's nobody on there. There's no public way of finding people. You can't search for people's usernames. You can't find people or look up people's details and things like that. It is exclusively contact building only. So you will have to create your link and you will have to send it to somebody, and they will then have to mutually add you, and you both agree then to set that status to each other. Mm-hmm. It kind of seems maybe a little bit overkill to go through that kind of jumping process, but I wanted to make sure that it was pretty secure and sound. And then, like I said, the data that we require from you, we need to know a name. We generate you a username, or you can add your own personal username. And we do need an email address for password resets, because we want the app to be secure. Because obviously when you add contacts in there, you can see their names and their usernames. You can't see their email address, so you can only see the contacts you add. You can only see information that person has willingly given you. And you can nickname them. So if you've got several friends with all the same names, so we've got two Alexes that work for us. We might change their nickname to be Designer Alex or Content Alex or something like that. If I wanted to check in. So yeah, it's something I'm very keen on, because I'm not a very public person. I don't like sharing a lot of stuff. I'm cautious about what I share, when I share it, what information is available in said sharing thing. And I wanted to build an app that took that into account.
Yeah, that's understandable. Good. Okay,
cool.
I think that's probably everything for now. So I think we'll wrap up and then head for a break for 5-10 minutes, Liz?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, brilliant.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah,
sorry, I'm going to talk right over you.
Yeah.
That's the only problem with this being online.
Over to you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us. I think that's brilliant. It's a really inspiring story as well, about how you kind of had that journey from needing it on a personal level, and then kind of deciding that you wanted to build something around that. So I think, it's very inspiring.
Thank you.
Yeah, it really is.
Oh, thank you.
Great. Yeah. So, no more questions. So we'll be back in, let's say, 10 minutes, and then we'll have a lightning talk from Louise, and then we'll follow that with Lee.
Oh. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, no worries. Obviously, stick around, Jackson.
Definitely. I am.
He's off now. That's it.
No. I'm sticking around because I own a piece of Lee's artwork. So, like,
do you?
I'm in that rabbit hole, and I stayed up till midnight to bid on it. Like, the first 10 seconds that it was available, and it's kind of cool and exciting. So I'm a proud owner of Lee's artwork.
You're a fan.
We might bring you in on the chat then.
Definitely
available. Great stuff. Cool. Okay then.
Cool.
Well, we'll see you all in 10.
All right. We'll head over into the chat.
Yeah, it's in a bit. Hi, Liz.
No,
You're on mute.
I knew I would do that for one of you. I knew it would happen. Welcome back.
Yeah, welcome back, everyone. Hope you've just made a nice fresh pot of tea, as I have.
Have a little comfort break and had a chocolate biscuit.
You see no biscuits here. I failed on that one, didn't I? I think we've got Louise ready for her lightning talk, I believe.
I think she's somewhere in the background.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, Louise.
How are you? Yeah, I'm cool. I'm in Alia's Innovation Lab today. I've been doing a workshop, and I thought I'd actually leave my house for the first time in 3 months. So, yeah, it's been nice. I've seen real people. I've left the house. It's been great.
How are you finding it?
It is a bit weird. I do think I've lost some of my social skills. I'm not going to lie. Luckily, my workshop was online and not in person. So I've kind of got used to that sort of format though. But I am a little bit workshopped out because I've done a couple today. So my throat is a little bit sore. So I'm sorry, I'm a bit gruff.
That's fine. I don't really know, to be honest, what the format for your lightning talk is. So I don't know.
Oh,
you've got.
I've chucked a few slides together, which I'm sharing the screen on, just more as a kind of aid memoir for me more than anything, so I can remember what I'm supposed to be talking about. Today, I'm going to be talking about, because Alia has just recently, you guys know this more than anyone, launched 3 business or kind of impact support programs. So I'm just going to give a bit of information about them, as I think maybe some of your viewers might want to apply. We've got 3 cohorts that we've just kind of kicked off recently in the last couple of months, so one more to go, but we are going to be doing these over the next couple of years because we've got EIDF funding. Yay. So it means we can support lots of businesses and charities, KICs across Peterborough and Cambridgeshire. So yeah, and you guys know that because you just started on our Grow Your Business program. So
yeah, we started. It's brilliant. Yeah, and I think Jackson mentioned earlier that he's doing, I want to say something acceleratory.
Yeah, Impact Accelerator. I mean, like, you guys probably could have done Impact Accelerator, but you were just a little bit late applying. So we've put you into Grow Your Business. Maybe you'll move on to Impact Accelerator because I think you are having this great impact around, because it's all based around this UN Sustainable Development Goals. It sounds really boring, but it's things like creating educational opportunities for young people. You know, Jackson obviously is improving mental health. That's another one of them. Some of them are absolutely huge, like eradicating all poverty in the world. They're going to do that in 10 years, according to the UN. And I think sometimes people turn off a little bit with that because they're like, oh, it's too big, it's too like huge to kind of conceptualize. But actually, if you don't have a goal, then where are you really going? So I think it's good to have something to hang our hats on.
Good piece of advice there, I think.
So yeah, are you able to see my slides? Are they there? Ah, there we go.
There you
so
go.
Yeah, do you want to take it away?
So yeah,
obviously,
it's okay. Well, I mean, happy to be interactive as well. So yeah, just like have you got, because if you guys have any questions as well, I'm sure other people will too. So is this going to work now? She says famous. So firstly, I thought I'd introduce our team because I think, well, obviously I'm a little bit biased, but I think our team are fantastic. We have Andrew, who is our head of enterprise programs, so the head honcho, but also massive finance guru. He's worked, you know, within companies doing huge venture capital raises, so he knows that world. He's also ran finance teams within finance organizations like big banks in America and stuff like that. So if anyone wants to know anything about their revenue models, or, you know, like how they should be forecasting things, or how they're working their bottom-up budgets and things like that, he is the man. Alex is based over in East London, and he started off like one of those did computer technology and computer psychology and things like that at uni, but is basically one of those kind of really tech savvy people, very good at marketing as well, who's able to help people basically it's being smarter and, you know, not working as hard. So, you know, like little bits of software that will allow you to make a 2-minute video in 5 minutes rather than having to learn all of that, you know, all of the stuff that underpins it. Emma is all about sustainability, which obviously works well with us doing the sustainability goals. So she's brilliant. She's over in Cambridge. And then there's me based in Peterborough. For some reason, marketing, I've got my name wrong. I'm Louise Porter, not Potter. And I'm all about fundraising. So that's kind of what I do. And we have, so we've got 3 programs we're running at the moment. The Impact Accelerator is basically 6 months of really detailed venture support for organisations, like I said earlier, that are working on, or sometimes they don't even know they're working on them, the UN sustainability goals, and creating a social impact. So that would be things like eradicating poverty, improving physical and mental health. And there's 3 layers to the program as well. So there's the workshops, which are like completely interactive. I think you guys have been to a couple of them now. We do try and make them, you know, so people can interact and ask questions as much as possible. We put in different activities so that you're not just, you know, it's not just chalk and talk. You actually get an opportunity to, you know, put those tools into play. Then we have mentors, and our mentors are like absolutely phenomenal. Some of the, like, you know, really high up people in business that, you know, like Preethi, who is the head of marketing at LinkedIn, you know, B2B marketing. She's one of our mentors. We have another person who worked on the Dove campaign, you know, the Love Yourself campaign that I think has been running now for like 10 years. So they're really like interesting people that give their time once a month for an hour for free so that you can really pick their brains. And then you get one-to-ones with the program managers like myself. And we're kind of more like a critical friend. We're trying to hold you to account. So at the beginning, you set out what your objectives are, you know, what that kind of overarching goal that you want to get out of the program is. And then we help you to kind of make sure that you're adhering to that, that you're, you know, working towards those things and moving forwards. Because otherwise, you know, the point of the program is that we're adding value to your business, enabling you to grow, maybe scale up, take on new employees, and obviously have that bigger impact within the world as well. Within the Impact Accelerator, because it's a 6-month program, it was quite easy to break it down into kind of 6 pillars, I think they call them. So we've got like value proposition, that is led by Preethi, the head of LinkedIn marketing. And it's a really great session, very interactive. Everyone loved that one. And she just gives 5 easy steps on how to create your value proposition, which is basically the value that you're bringing to your customers or to the world, or, you know, the change that you're making, you know. So the world before your product, before DPiP, was nobody in Peterborough were, you know, the digital people weren't connecting. They didn't have a forum to discuss things. By having DPiP in the world, they now do have that. You've solved that pain problem for them. So, yeah, Jackson was in that session. He absolutely loved it. It was brilliant. Then we like deep dive into financials and fundraising. Not everybody's favorite topics, I must admit, although people do like grant fundraising. We had a lot of people turn up to that. And then we look at marketing and storytelling. We have a lady called Bella who does our Instagram sessions. She's absolutely amazing. She took to prove her point, she took the most boring topic, which is, to her, was front doors in London, created an Instagram, and then managed to get 70,000 followers within a really short space of time by using the strategies that she espouses. So that's a really great one. We also have Lizzie, who does brand storytelling, which is where you kind of take your value proposition and kind of put that in the center of your brand story, you know, and I think that's really important in terms of getting people to engage with you. And then we look at scaling, because obviously that is what we're trying to do. We're trying to create a bigger impact, you know, amplify your impact, leadership and partnerships, because actually just because you've created a business or, you know, DPiP or something, does that mean you're a natural leader? Not always, actually. So is there something we can do to help people learn, you know, different ways of leading their new organization as they're growing? And then we look at pitching. It was a bit of a controversial one within our team, because we were like, well, not every business wants to pitch for investment, but actually, whether you're going for investment, whether you're trying to get new customers, whether you're trying to create a partnership, you are pitching your business. You know, whether it's a 2-minute elevator pitch, whether you're standing there with your sales deck or whatever it is in front of a customer, you're constantly pitching. So, and that pitch perfection culminates in a pitch day where you get to stand in front of real life investors. We're starting to get some of them confirmed at the moment. I'm not allowed to tell you who they are, but there are some really exciting people that are working within like venture capital, world, investing in these businesses. And although the aim of the pitch day isn't for them to get investment, it's about getting practice. Sometimes they really do get investment. So I think that's quite interesting as well. The next program, which is the one you guys are on, which is Grow Your Business. And this was born out of like tech startups in London. And what they were finding was that they were really great at creating wonderful products or software or, something like that, but didn't actually know that much about the bare bones of how to create a business, how to monetize that, how to, just generally make money, run a business. It's not something, just because you're good at creating a product, it doesn't mean you necessarily have that business acumen. So it's open to, and this one is open to any business. So it makes it really broad and interesting. And we get honestly, within the current cohort, we've got somebody that's creating really, it sounds odd to say it, but really beautiful sex toys. They look absolutely fantastic with this great product photography right the way through to, somebody that's making artisanal cheese. There's such a breadth of companies within our current cohort, which does make it quite interesting, I think, when we do get into the discussion sessions. We've just been doing Value Proposition Canvas, which is a slightly different tool from a strategizer tool. And it was really interesting to get them, listening to them, talking to each other about the pain that they're solving and what the gains are for their customer. And especially when you've got somebody that's doing crafting and tea, loose leaf tea, talking to somebody that's doing sex toys. It's it's really interesting to see the way that they describe their businesses to each other and what they're getting out of it. Grow Your Businesses is it's 3 months, and you guys have seen the session timetable. It's pretty intense to begin with. It does get a little bit less intense towards the end of it, because actually at that point you should be putting those tools into play. And then you also get one-to-ones with the program managers. We don't necessarily bring mentors in as much within Grow Your Business. It's more if you have a specific need, and then we kind of parachute an expert in. I love that expression. And it's a huge, broad range of topics. So lean methodologies, how you're bringing in all those manufacturing methodologies to make your business, so you're not spending money, basically. You're working on what your minimum viable project is, so that before you actually even take it to market, So if you're wanting to set up a tea room, maybe you actually go to your local community centre and do one session to see if anyone actually wants that brand of tea or wants to, interact in that sort of way. So that one's quite good. And I think as well, because in Peterborough, we've had this huge surge in the last year, like lockdown. I think a lot of people thought, business registrations would go down. But actually, dissolutions have gone down and incorporations have gone up. And in Peterborough, we're one of the biggest growing cities in the whole of Cambridgeshire and in the top 10 in the UK for businesses registering, on a per capita kind of basis. So in terms of the applications for Grow Your Business and ideation and validation, the next program, we've been inundated, and we've been really lucky because we're funded that we can, for the most part, just take everyone on. So that's quite fun. And then ideation and validation. And it's the most simple program in the sense that it's only 2 months long, but actually it's about coming with an idea. And again, there's people that are wanting to look at new ways of recycling plastic, people that are thinking of starting a clothing brand. We take them through a series of different workshops where they can constantly be iterating and finding out, actually, is their business idea viable? And for some people, success from that program may be actually that they decide that one isn't the right program or isn't the right product for them, and that they need to pivot and change into something else. And that is success for them. And it might mean that they need to go away and have a little think, go back to the drawing board and come back. Other people, by the end of that program, will be registering a business because they've gone through the whole thing and they've realized, no, this is a solid idea. It's totally got legs. And that's one of those funny expressions, but, and they can turn it into a viable business going forwards. So, but then the other thing that we are opening back up again soon is where I am at the moment, is our innovation lab. I only discovered it recently, you know, being new to the Alia community. I only joined in January, and was invited down by the CEO and the director of Future Business Centres, and it was all like, oh God, this is really official. I came in and it is like a playground for adults. I mean, like literally, they've got everything in here. We've got a green screen. I was messing around with a green screen, like swimming and just all sorts. We've got like really good cameras, so you can do product photography, CAD computers, so you can start designing things. Oh, I made myself a heat-formed fireman's hat. This like industrial, like they're huge, like industrial pieces of kit that actually startups and inventors and entrepreneurs would never normally get the opportunity to use. And it's going to be, we're opening it back up again soon, obviously when lockdown allows. And that's kind of like an open invitation that, like, I think the membership is something ridiculous, like £30 a month, or you can pay for a particular session. Obviously, it's very accessible. There's a technician here that can help you, so you don't even need to know necessarily how to use all these pieces of equipment. You know, we'll go through that with you. The whole innovation lab has been sponsored by Anglian Water, so we do give preference to organisations that are working with water technology and how to save water and how to stop leakages and things like that, because that's a huge thing apparently. But we do, you know, obviously we give a preference to that, but it's open to anybody. So, and our entire programme, I have to say this, I'm like duty bound, is supported and funded by the European Regional Development Fund. Like, I literally have to say that, they check. So that's all of our programs in a nutshell. And if anybody wants to apply or be on part of the programs, I'm more than happy to give up my email address. I'll put it in the chat or whatever, and just get in touch. And although we're not recruiting at the moment, we are doing it on a kind of rolling basis. So I'll still keep people's details. The next Impact Accelerator we'll be recruiting for towards the end of the year. We've got another Grow Your Business that we'll be doing later on this year. And yeah, and then we'll just keep rolling through them over the next kind of 3 years. So it's a great opportunity, and it is free in the sense that you're not paying any fees. What we do ask for, though, is data. So, because obviously that's what we're measured on. We are paid by results. So we need like the baseline data and your endpoint data and maybe a case study from people. But that is literally your payment to us. Everything else is kind of free for you to use.
Brilliant. Yeah, so we've just started Grow Your Business. And I have to say, I really enjoyed our first session because we got to do an escape room and drive a robot around a maze. So,
did you? When I first did that one, I got them. It was so funny. I can't remember what the guy's name was, but I got him to shoot himself with the robot. I lost 10 points for it, but it was totally worth it.
Didn't think of doing that.
It was so much fun watching him. He was like.
I think we had one question from Richard, which you've actually kind of answered anyway. It's just about when the Innovation Lab is going to be reopening. Don't know if you've got a date on that at all, or if it's just kind of
it's a bit locked down. I wanted to kind of, I've been pushing for sort of in the next couple of weeks, but I don't think that's going to be the case. With the centre manager, I think it's probably going to be more likely towards the end of May sort of time. But as soon as I have a date for that, I'll send it over to you guys so you can send it out to your network.
Sure.
But yeah, brilliant. But yeah, anyone who wants to get in touch with me, it's just louise.porter@alia.org.uk. So yeah, and I'll be happy to let you know when things are starting to reopen, and we want to do some open days as well. We want people to come in and use this, you know, and create a kind of, because it should be a community space. You know, the way it's set up, you know, it should be for people that are idea generators coming in and interacting with each other.
Brilliant.
Excellent.
Have we got any more questions?
I think that's it, really.
Looks like that.
Yeah, I think that's it. Obviously, if there are any other questions, we can pass them on.
Yeah.
Yeah, no problem.
Brilliant. Well, thanks for your time, Louise.
Thank
you,
problem.
Louise. Thank you.
Speak to you later.
Take care.
Right, should we get our next speaker in?
Sure, let's get started.
Available. Cool. Shall we? Oh, I just muted Lee. Yeah, rookie mistake.
Hi. That's what I
Hi.
Shall we bring Jackson in on this as well to mix it up a bit?
Yeah, cool.
Is he
If he
ready?
if he doesn't mind.
It could just be a blank screen. It's just not in the room anymore.
You mentioned that you'd bought from Lee's previous CryptoArt drop, so yeah, I thought.
Am I here as the sort of the fan?
I think so.
Yeah, that's right. Right. Yeah. Geoff's got one or two as well, so you know you're not the only one. I'm here with my entire fan base. That's not true. Hopefully, I'll be able to communicate that well enough in the next 25 minutes or so.
Yeah. And that's already been running a bit long.
Yeah, don't feel like you have to cut it down because I know
I am actually going to be quite fast paced with it because there's so much. There's so much, and I've spent my time in another dimension for about 12 months now, and time travels differently in that space. And that sounds like I'm making it up, but it actually does.
It's not a joke, is it? Yeah.
No, it's so much stuff, so much innovation happens so quickly in the cryptocurrency blockchain space, especially. But like the art is even more fast paced. That it feels like a month has passed for every week easily. So. Yeah, I'm going to miss some really important things, I'm sure, but I'm also going to go through loads of stuff. I'm not going to be color coordinated with slides quite so much as Jackson was, but I have. I've got my browser window basically. You can't see that yet, can you? Hold on.
No.
Bring it
Liz,
up. Okay, cool.
Just before you get going, Liz, did you say you wanted to step back and just do the chat, or are you?
I'm going to be doing the chat and the socials behind the scenes, and I don't mind being on the camera, but I always feel like it's a bit rude because I'm always looking down to the phone or to a different screen. So I'm going to step back for a bit, and I'll come back again in a little while. But
cool. Yeah, cool.
Thanks. So I requested a few more faces in the room because it's a bit unusual. Like Jack mentioned, it's a bit unusual when you're just sort of talking away and you haven't got an audience. In a way, it's easier because you haven't got people staring at you like mouth agape or confused, throwing you off. But at the same time, you get no feedback either. So thanks for joining me for this as well.
I can fill in that role if you like. I can stare at you, sort of like.
Yeah, just start drooling. Just start checking your phone and go. Yeah, it's a bit rubbish. Send me a text. Okay, cool. So I'm just going to get going then. So, all right. So my story begins. Just as a certain C word landed in the country and everybody went into lockdown. So for those of you who don't know, I am from around here as well. I'm in Spalding now, but I'm Peterborough based. I have been for 20 odd years. I've been a freelance designer and entrepreneur and event organizer and digital artist for that period of time. Run a couple of businesses, but I'm now, I've just started a new business actually, focusing predominantly on CryptoArt. So just before lockdown happened, I was transitioning from sort of client-based design work to events and art council funded projects and things like that. I basically stopped as a designer, and I was calling myself a digital artist. And I was using virtual reality design tools. So if you look, this is my website that I haven't touched in about 12 months. But you can see from some of the pictures that I was working in schools and I was doing some really fun projects. It was really cool. But essentially, this was off the back of trying to monetize using virtual reality design tools. So in July 2019, I did a talk at DPiP. And I was saying, like, these tools are awesome. And I was trying to sort of share them with people. Because for me, as someone who struggles with focus a lot, putting on a VR headset and dropping into an immersive space where I can create freely has been not only like hugely fun and great creative for creative projects, but also therapeutic. So I went to hospitals and schools and universities, and I started to share that. And I lugged a tower PC around London with sensors and all sorts of stuff when VR headsets were a lot more clunky. But anyway, so basically COVID hit, and my events that I had booked in stopped overnight. The school stuff stopped overnight. And around that time, I had heard tell of CryptoArt. I'd seen people talking about CryptoArt, and I understood what blockchain was and what Bitcoin is. And very, very quickly, I don't want to go into the nitty-gritty of the technology, but blockchain technology is a decentralized, as in accessible everywhere, but no one controls it, ledger of information. So this is why Bitcoin is a very powerful asset, digital store of value, is because it can't be blocked or controlled by any central source. And it's gained value over the last 12 or 13 years, and we'll see how much it has in the past year as well, which has been crazy. But because of its inherent sort of value, in the sense that, like I say, it can't be stopped, can't be blocked, can't be controlled by anybody. And in countries where the currency's crashed completely, people's lives have been changed by being able to transact value and use cryptocurrencies just using their mobile phones, not only within their own country, but around the world. So Ethereum is another another blockchain technology. It's far more complex than Bitcoin. And all of this stuff that I'm going to show you now rests on Ethereum. And it can be transacted as a currency, and has a value, but you can also build on it. Like it's often called a global computer, and it's extremely powerful system for building complex protocols. They don't necessarily have to be financial in nature at all. It's just that's where this is sort of stemmed from. It stemmed from Bitcoin and a decentralized currency. So I learned about CryptoArt on Instagram. I saw an artist post that said they just sold a piece of VR artwork. It's an artist called Giant Swan. You can find him on Instagram, and he sold a piece of virtual reality artwork for a couple of $100. And this is just when I'd realized that my income was drying up. So I was like, right, I'm going to get my head down. And I'm still down that rabbit hole now, and it's become my full-time job. I am a freelance artist, and I sell to collectors around the world, and it's gone really, really well. So just to quickly, when people's eyes glaze over when you talk about blockchain, I want you to just share a couple of nuggets of information that are really recent. One thing that's worth noting is Bitcoin was $3,000 a coin around when COVID hit, because the stock market crashed and it was very low, and it's now roughly around $60,000 a coin. So you can see it's 20 times in a year. And Ethereum has done the same sort of. It's exponentially growing over time. Ethereum hit an all-time high about 3 days ago, at $2,150 per an ETH, which was about $200 or no, less than $200 an ETH when I started doing the crypto art. So you get paid in Ethereum, not necessarily Ethereum, but most of this is Ethereum. So that's a big barrier of entry for people, because it's confusing and it's like this magic internet money, and some people don't trust it or whatever. So that meant that by jumping in really early, there wasn't so much competition, and I was able to sort of get on some of the big platforms for selling art and make a name for myself quite early on. So just a bit of news. Tesla now, they've invested in Bitcoin, and now you can buy Tesla cars with Bitcoin. So this was really important, because this is one of many large brands that now accept it. You can buy, I think, Jack, you showed me that you can use Bitcoin to buy soap at Lush. Yeah, that's where you get your bath bombs. Yeah.
I just noticed it on the. I was like on the checkout, and it said pay with Bitcoin. I was like, yeah, wow, that's a real world thing. That's actually real now.
Exactly, it's here to stay, definitely. I would never spend my Bitcoin on stuff, not anything. I don't think. I'm just going to hold it because I believe it's a global. It's a store of value for the future, like gold. Basically, it's just gold with a lot more functionality. And then this happened last week as well. Ethereum hits a new all-time high, and Visa now use it to settle transactions. Now, this is another huge thing. I've got a Bitcoin bank card. I can just spend my Bitcoin in a corner shop now if I want, or my Ethereum or any cryptocurrencies. But like I say, I don't. I'm just sort of using it as a savings. But those are just two things that sort of solidify that these things are something to pay attention to, that they're not going anywhere, and they're exponentially rising in value. And the predictions for these before the end of the year is that they're going to do another 5 or 6 times what they're at now, but no one knows for sure. And if the stock market crashes, which it might do this year, again because of COVID, because of stimulus and all that sort of stuff, it's still volatile. It's still up and down. And I'm not a financial advisor. I make digital insects for a living, so I'm definitely not the person to come to for advice. But this is the world that I'm very much living in at the moment. Okay, so art on Ethereum is based on this technology called NFTs. Very quickly, if you imagine, this is how I describe it to children, basically. This is the simplest way of describing it. No, I'm not. I don't want to patronize. I'm patronizing everybody. I thought this was good though. If you imagine that you've got a treasure chest and it's full of gold coins, and those gold coins are, say, the Bitcoin or Ethereum or whatever, they're all identical to each other. That means they're fungible. But in that treasure chest, you've also got a scepter and a crown and individual things. Those individual one-off valuable items are the NFTs. There isn't lots of them necessarily. There can be some multiples, but they're often one-of-ones and they're unique. And they are, when you attach your artwork to this token on Ethereum, what it does is the metadata for the artwork, not the actual file itself, but the metadata for that file, and any descriptive terms, and sometimes the whole artwork, but I'll get to that in a bit, is stamped in time by you. So it's signed by you, and it exists from that point on, and can be tracked back to you for forevermore. So the only way that the Ethereum sort of blockchain or the Bitcoin blockchain can disappear is if all the computers in the world are, if a comet hits or if an EMP takes out all the electronics and all the computers get fried, something like that. So it's very, very, very unlikely that this stuff won't exist for hundreds of years into the future. So there's this real.
You say when you explain this to kids, they get this.
Yeah,
I'm sat here going, what?
Yeah, so it's a certificate. It's a certificate of authenticity that you attach to your thing. It doesn't have to be artwork. It can be a real house. It can be anything. But it's there for everybody to see. It's immutable, so it can't be turned off, and it's transparent, so it can always be seen, and so it can't be locked away. So you've got this proof of authenticity and provenance. So as an artist, imagine what it would be like if Picasso had blockchain technology and his family still had all the proof of all of the artwork. And this is one of the coolest things about it. And they were still getting royalties for every sale. Because most of the time, large artists that have done extremely well, predominantly, they do much better after their death because they're not making any more art. So the art that exists out in the world that everyone loves is finite. There isn't going to be new. And then these are the last ones that get shared around. But they and their family and anyone else don't get anything for that. So that you've got these millionaires moving paintings around, and that value doesn't go back to the actual artist, whether they're alive or not. And for my artwork that I've sold, I'm still getting secondary sales every time a piece of art sells. I get 10% of that sale. So I've got a passive income just dripping into my bank, into my sort of Ethereum wallet, as it were, for artwork that sold 8, 9, 10 months ago. And artists have never had that before. That's never been possible before. Musicians kind of had it, but streaming services have destroyed that model as well. And now musicians are like Grimes has just released an NFT, and Snoop Dogg is releasing an NFT, and so the musicians, big names, are getting into it as well. Okay, so one of the criticisms is, why would you buy digital artwork when you can buy a print? And I like to sort of draw attention to the figures for Fortnite, for instance. This is $36 million every month being spent on digital items that have no inherent, they don't exist in the real world. So we got to sort of like realize that we do, it's good and bad, but we do exist digitally. We do spend hours, or everybody pretty much, at least a few hours on our phones staring, connecting digitally, and we look at stuff and we see that value in it, and it doesn't matter that it isn't physical. In fact, it's better that it isn't physical, because, for instance, some of my artwork is on display in multiple galleries at once, where anyone who wanders into those galleries can buy them in VR or on desktop, or on physical digital screens. So your one token has value as a single thing, but it can be sort of beamed into different spaces at any one time. So it still all goes back to the one token. but it can be transferred and sold and bought and shared, and there's all sorts of crazy cool interactions that you can have. So anyway, I found out about Super Rare. I joined Super Rare about a year ago. If we go to all of the artworks here, and I put up a piece of artwork that I've been working on. This was around the time, actually, last time I did the DPiP talk, I was starting to do this in Tiltbrush. And I put it up for sale. The first one here I put up for sale, and after a few days, it was on auction, and it sold for 3.5 ETH, which was $634, which was the most that anyone had ever spent on anything. As a digital artist, you put your work up onto Instagram and Twitter and Facebook, and people like it, and you might sell a T-shirt or a print or a skateboard, but most artists, unless they've got to a certain size and they've been working a long time, or they got lucky, or they're especially good, the artwork goes out there, and the digital file is just there to be thrown around and saved on mobile phones, and the value isn't attached to the actual digital file. It has to be brought into the real world somehow with litho prints, or, like I say, T-shirts. So I used to do T-shirts and skateboards and things. So I collaborated here with a musician, again, from Peterborough, paid him for the sound. I'll keep the sound off because it will just blare out. But basically, this was just moving a camera back through a 3D painting that I did in Tiltbrush. And this was absolutely empowering to be able to create a piece of artwork for myself that's my own sort of weird brand of unusual, and then see if anybody wanted to buy it. And I didn't know if anyone was going to buy it. And like I say, within a few days it had sold. So from that point on, I was like, right, this is what I'm going to do. So I'd used an old brand that I'd had lying around. I had Metageist brand from selling T-shirts and skateboards like 10 years previously. And I carried on using that brand and started creating this sort of weird sort of artwork. And I did more and more. I did a few cinematic pieces. I did another one here. This was my first attempt at using materials. You can see there's a list price of 55.555 Ether. So that's hundreds of thousands of dollars at the moment. That's the asking price for that piece. But what they paid for it was $698. And this is actually a style that I'm continuing with now. Harking back to something that Jackson said earlier about how real human connection is, obviously should not be replaced by digital, and I agree with that. Even though I've been existing, like I say, I've been in VR, living through with screens strapped to my face for like 12 months, and I love technology, and I'm a futurist. A lot of my artwork is actually warning people that this metaverse that we're excited about isn't all rosy, and we've got to be careful about who controls it and how much time we spend in it. So this was a 3D ETH hopper. This is a 3D model. So this is a sculpture that was sold, and it was bought by Metaverse that we'll talk about in a bit. It was one of Metaverse's first purchases, and it's a 3D sculpture. And actually, the idea is that there's two of these. And you can use them to teleport from one place to another in VR. But there's two sounds built into this when you're in VR. You can walk up to it and it's sort of playing this like nice sort of elevator music to make you feel nice and calm. But when you get close to it, it plays this really nasty, horrible music. And the idea is that it's about sort of warning that the future simulation and the VR and stuff that we're going to be falling into is something that we need to consider. So this is super rare. You can see here that this is me in my dodgy avatar in front of it. So that's how big it is. So it's like when you're in virtual reality, you stand under it and it's about 2 or 3 stories high. And there's some other art.
So that's actually you there in VR.
That's me in my avatar, yeah. And then here it is in augmented reality in Bristol somewhere. Someone like downloaded the file and put it into an allotment in Bristol. And then, like I say, it's been bought by Metaverse. So Sigil is a friend of mine, and he was Peterborough based, lives in Portugal now, and he did the audio for it. So another piece of Super Rare. This sold for the equivalent of $8,000, and it's a collaboration between me and Jamie Fox. I sculpted the hand and this spiral portal in VR, and then he submerged it in pigments and took a macro photo of it. and yeah, you can see that that sold for 4 ETH. So that's about eight grand now. And there's a bunch of other things. This is a piece I showed at Digital People in Peterborough in 2019. This was something I was teaching myself how to use Google Blocks in VR. So I've started building the world around these little guys that live in a world of giant insects. So what I did after a while is I went through some of my older work to see if there was anything that people might want to buy. And this was sold a month or so ago for 2 Ethereum. So that's about 4 grand. And that is currently being held by Roger, and it's his to sell or keep or display in virtual reality if he chooses to. I spent a lot of time in Crypto Voxels as well, which is this crazy cool, weird browser-based virtual space. Oh, let me mute it. Because it's got this crazy background music. And the parcels of land in this are also NFTs. So you can buy virtual real estate, and for up to £40,000 a plot of virtual land. And then you can build a gallery and you can sell your artwork. So you can see there's a piece there. And I've made my own weird sort of wearables and stuff as well. So that's just something I wanted to show, because this is where, like, during lockdown, I stopped watching the news. I didn't pay any attention to any of the depressing real world, and I just like dived headlong into this and sort of started to build my empire. And then we've got another platform here. This was more of the insect people, and then I got onto Nifty Gateway. Now, the Nifty Gateway is like the holy grail of platforms. And this is where I started to create my sort of collectibles. And they were sold, instead of doing one-of-one rare things, there were multiple editions.
So this is where basically every crypto artist wants to be, is it? Nifty Gateway. Yeah,
it's really, really, really hard to get onto. Nowadays, I don't think anyone like me would be able to get on. I think you have to have a huge following. You'll have to be a celebrity, or really have some serious social media clout to get on. And I got on just because I'm doing what I've always done, and I'm a community builder, and I enjoy the social side of things, and I'm constantly in the space, constantly supporting other artists, and putting on events and helping out with events, and in all the servers, and meeting lots of people. Like, the amount of people I met in lockdown is crazy. Hundreds and hundreds of new, like, really interesting, really clever artists and developers doing like really weird stuff on the blockchain. It's been really cool. So these were something I wanted to do. I pitched this idea to get on. So I wanted to do something that was a bit of a nostalgia thing. And it was based on collectible toys. So I created 8 different creatures, 8 different species of collectible monsters that were in these like $60 packs. And I created, there's 275 blind packs. So you would jump onto Nifty Gateway and buy a pack. So for $60 here, you see they sold out in about 28 minutes. So that's like insane. This was like an incredible night. That's like 20 grand for selling my own little creatures in.
I think I remember you sharing the like email notifications or something.
Yeah, that was insane. Every time someone bought one, you'd get like a notification, and I recorded my screen. I was like, this all happens at midnight as well, because it's all US time, so it's like 7 p.m. in the US and like New York time. So it was like midnight, and I didn't know if they were going to sell. Like, I deliberately made them like I wanted them to look like toys, and that meant that I could keep them quite naive. But at the same time, I wanted them to all be different, and I wanted them to look like they were made in VR. So they're basically these weird, and I didn't want them to look like anything else too much. I really wanted them to be very unique. So they're designed. You can see the brush strokes. All of these are just like physical brush strokes, and you can see how, if you understand the software that I'm using, you can see how they were made. So they're all of varying rarities. So there were 75 of these, I think, and they all go up in complexity, kind of. So they're based on the Cambrian explosion when early life forms started to develop on Earth. And the loose idea is that these creatures are the first like life forms existing in this futuristic metaverse, this idea of when we're going to like all be connected in this immersive simulation in the future. I wanted there to be animals, and not just like cuddly animals. I wanted the weird, the stuff that in nature that we sort of overlook and take for granted needs to be represented in. I don't like all this like utopian stuff, and I wanted to do stuff that was weird and a little bit uncomfortable. So yeah, you bought these packs and you didn't know which one you were going to get, and then once you've got one, you can sell them again on the secondary market for a profit. So I think basically these are, we'll have a look at some of these in a second. We'll have a look at what the secondary market's doing, but every time a purchase is made on the secondary market, I also get 10% of that sale as well, like within seconds, into my wallet. So this was a collection called Metamorphosis. I wanted to do something that was like different to anything else I'd seen on the site. And these is actually a live recording sped up. It's hard to imagine, but if you can imagine that this creature is like about 3 or 4 feet wide, and I'm in here and I'm moving pieces around, but you can't see me, and then I've sped it up.
That's so cool. So I've seen you do this, Lee. So I know what it's. I've seen you actually paint this stuff, and I've seen you move it around. Yeah, live via just like different VR events. So I can imagine you like physically being there and moving it around. But it's kind of mesmerizing to watch.
Yeah, it really is. So that just loops.
And that just loops seamlessly, and it's got bespoke music by Sigil as well. And they were sold. I sold 35 of those, I think. It was a low numbers, to be honest. I was hoping for more, but at the same time, it was 35 bucks for $175 each. And now the asking prices are, around $1,000, I suppose, roughly. Someone wants 50 grand for one here. And you can see that a lot of people are just holding on to them. So the idea is everybody in this, and it is like a belief system. It is based on this mutual agreement that there's value in these items, just like we agree that there's a value in a pound coin. And there isn't inherent value in like a penny or a 2p piece or a £50 note. It's just a bit of paper, but we agree. And if there's enough people that agree, then you've got a marketplace, and you've got like a system that allows things like this to happen. So most people, I would say, well, there's lots of people that buy and they just want to make a profit, and that's fine. They're flipping. They're like people buy a house and do it up and sell it for profit, or whatever, or baseball cards or anything like that. But there's also people that are buying these and they're holding them because in a few years' time, they believe that as an artist, I would have continued, I would have improved, I would have got bigger, and these are going to be some of my earlier pieces, and that they'll be worth a lot of money. And some people, I didn't think I was going to buy other people's art at first. I was just like, I'm going to make art. I'm going to save my money, and this is going to be my. And I've bought nearly 300 pieces of other people's art now. So the money that's come down has been trickled down to other people, and we'll see in a minute that I've also onboarded loads of Peterborough artists, and I've bought all their first pieces and sort of created a community.
So looking at, sorry, Lee, just those sprites in. So there's 35 of those.
Yeah,
and that's all that will ever exist of that piece.
Yeah.
So if you created more of those, decided to release more, that's frowned upon.
Yeah.
So it's kind
of... imagine like your whole sort of like legacy as an artist would just be shot. As soon as you put something on the blockchain, like I said before, everything that you create on the blockchain is transparent and there for everybody to see. That's something that a lot of people don't like about blockchain, because they can't hide their wealth. It's hard to hide your wealth. It is accessible. Obviously, you can just create a pseudonym, and there's ways around it. And there's all sorts of like, just like the stock market, there's all sorts of good and bad things going on, just like there is with anybody and human beings with money and finance and valuable assets. But ultimately, if I put this on a different platform, it would just be like, oh, Metageist is being, well, and all of these things would suddenly crash in value. I've seen it before. I've seen it happen. There was one guy, it turned out that he'd been ripping off another artist, and it was just a group of people in Indonesia ripping off another artist, and it took about 2 years before it was found out, and then their drop was cancelled from Nifty Gateway, and the value of their work is plummeting. So you could just mint it somewhere else, and some people are quite cheeky and they'll just change a few colors and they'll mint a separate thing, and and you'll find that the serious collectors won't be interested in that.
So minting's the process of putting the NFT on.
Yeah, like minting a coin or something. Yeah, the minting is like a term, or tokenizing or minting is more or less the same thing. So yeah, there's a bunch of those, and they're mostly they're really rare and they are unusual. And what I wanted to do with this stuff, and it's quite obvious from how like weird and ugly it is I wanted to do something that is truly mine and trying not to sort of do anything that is just to sell. I want it to be, and I really love entomology, and I love like macro photography, and I love the animal kingdom, and like it's important to me that some of these things are represented. And I love the idea that there is this merging of realities between the digital and the real, and that, like I say, these things need to be represented. And I also, from the very beginning of creating the Metageist persona, worked with technologies I didn't really know. I'd been playing with VR, but only for a year or so, and maybe 2 years, but it hadn't been something I've been using to create things to sell, and I hadn't done anything else 3D. And part of that is I get bored of repeating myself. I don't want to do anything sort of that I've done before. I want to always be pushing myself. And the other thing is I think collectors will like the idea that they're at the beginning of an artist's journey. So rather than going with what I was an expert at, like Photoshop and 2D design, I have barely touched any of that software that I've been using for 20 years, and I've gone straight in. And it's been hard at times because it's much more stressful when you really don't know how to get at like what you want to get out of something, but at the same time it makes me a little more proud of it. So then Metafiler 2, this was the second pack. Each of these pieces is an evolution of one of the last ones. So if we look at this, if we look at the splinter bug, he is an evolution of the teratoma here. It's one of the most obvious ones to use because basically he's got just really clumsy legs that stick out. The idea is that he's like this quite grotesque ball, and he's just grown. You can see that he's got like a head and he's got a crown here. That's actually on the back of this, and it grew out. There he is. He's down there. So each of these is an evolution because the sort of metaphyla, like the word comes from metaverse and phyla, which is a family of animals. They've all evolved. So the flicker here evolved into this guy, the light ray, which is one of my favorites. And if you look at my camera, I have got a 3D print of the light ray. And that's being sent to given to a collector. I've got to tidy it up a little bit, but that's been printed here at my home, and this represents where I'm going in the future with my next sort of artwork. So the light ray, the flicker evolved into light ray. So he was a flicker of light, and now he's a light ray. Tethys, which was the one of one, which I can't remember what the asking price was. I think it was $4,000. I can't remember what was more than that. I don't know, but he's.
Yeah, I thought maybe 20 at one point.
Yeah, I think it went up to something really high, and then it's been taken down, and they're holding on to it. But Tethys, she's an engineer, and she was the rarest piece in the whole pack, and somebody got that. And then the evolution of Tethys is one of her creations, which is like an effigy of herself. So it's representing that evolution can happen through creativity and technology as well as biologically over time. So, and then we've got Ouroboros, which was the one of one, and that is up for sale for $500,000 at the moment. So if that sells, we'll get a nice 50 grand. And that's an evolution of the Leviathan, which is it's a predator. It's got a lure on its tail, and over time it's decided to devour itself. And it's actually an archetype. It's an ancient archetype. You probably recognize it as a mythological symbol that you've seen used over time. And that's one of my favorite pieces by far. I think I'm really happy with it. I'm trying to do something a little bit different using like neon gradients with tarnished metal, and you'll see in a minute that I'm continuing along that sort of.
It's the one I wanted.
You can kind of see the evolution of your skills as well as the actual pieces, I think.
Yeah, I like. It's really important to me that is obvious. I think I beat myself up quite a lot during this. It's especially when you're working in isolation. It's very anxiety-inducing putting yourself out there. Plus, around this time, much more skilled and more experienced 3D artists were coming into play. But like I say, I like the idea that there's these like early pieces. They're relatively simple, and then when you look back on them, you know, they'll have this charm to them. And I learned how to use transparencies here with the wings of the grid weaver. And with the Tethys effigy that we saw, they've all got like a backstory as well, and they're all going to continue into the future. So there's going to be a series 3, and with series 3, the Temple Hermit, for instance, he was a hermit crab in the first series. Now he's got like his little face, and he's turning into an actual environment. And the plan for him is that he is actually going to become a virtual reality environment with a gallery inside, and you're going to be able to walk around inside him for his next evolution.
Is that a bit of an exclusive, that one?
Yes, I'm not really sharing that too much because I've been scared. But it's like what Jack said earlier. Like if you put it out into the world, then you've got to do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, the yellow jello, which was the simplest one, and that's the one you didn't really want because it's the most common, and it's still selling for $400 or $500 a time at the moment. And for $60, that's a really good sort of markup and profit. But at the same time, it was the most common. That's actually turned into the Gorgonian monk, which is one of my favorite pieces as well. You can see it's evolved from the jellyfish, and they've all got different background sounds.
That's the one I've got,
and that's the one Jack's got.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a rare one. It was only a 12% chance, and it's one of my favorites. This gets the most feedback. I got an artist that I really look up to called Sutu. He's an amazing digital artist, musician, and VR artist. And he sent me an email out of the blue, a message on Twitter out of the blue about how much he loved this guy. So that was really nice. I was going
to say, they were blind box, weren't they? Because I didn't understand this when I first got involved with this. I was like, oh, that's the one I would love to have. But I didn't realize, of course, then it's like you buy a pack and it can be any one of those out of that pack.
Yes, yeah, that's right. And I think that's really fun. And actually, as things go, these are still incredibly rare. You can see here that there's only 45 splinter bugs, there's only 35 grid weavers, there's only 30 temple hermits, and that's really, really low numbers because people are releasing 4,000 at a time of some of their artworks now. So in the future, I think these are going to look extremely limited, and that's a really good thing. But I'm not going to do another pack until I do the next Metafire, which is a little while away. But what's wonderful, and it's something that a lot of people, there's been bad press for NFTs because people who don't understand it think it's just a bunch of billionaire, white straight billionaire tech bros spending all of their money on collectibles that don't exist. And there's a certain amount of that. There is a certain amount of that. But what you don't see until you look beyond like the Financial Times or like some of the sort of tackier press that's talking about it is you don't realize that there's actually there's tens of thousands of artists that all had their work dry up because of COVID and have all found this marketplace. And they may well have been propped up in the beginning by people that had become very rich over the last decade because of Bitcoin and Ethereum. But now that is all trickled down and everybody's supporting each other. And so you've got this amazing community of collectors and artists. The artists have become collectors. The collectors are now starting to become inspired and start releasing their own artwork. And there's this really nice sense of sort of being at the cusp of this art renaissance. This is something that artists have wanted to exist forever, for digital artists especially, and it's absolutely here to stay. I can't imagine why something with the traction it's getting now would stop. Which gets me onto a really nice.
We've had a couple of good questions. I don't know if it's going to break your flow at all.
Go for it. Yeah, all good.
So Andreas just asked, basically, so how are the NFTs linked to how's the art linked to the token?
Yeah, so with something like this, you've got a video saved, a video file. Depending on the platform, it's saved on the server somewhere, and it is attached through metadata to the NFT. So the NFT holds a very small amount of data, so it isn't held within the artwork itself. Isn't held within the NFT in most instances. In some instances, it is. Those art where it is are deemed more valuable. There's examples of that I'll show you that are selling for tens of millions of dollars, and they're simple pixelated artwork, and that's because they are saved to the blockchain, and that is immutable, and they will never break that link. But depending on where your art lies, you might lose that attachment if the platform disappears. So in the future, Nifty Gateway, although it's it is the most successful platform out there, I think for art, I think if it did disappear, you would still have people trading the NFTs, which are actually where the value lies in terms of the provenance of the piece. And it's weird to try and get your head around that, but you would always be able to find that artwork. It might not be indelibly chiseled into the blockchain along with the metadata, but there will always be that connection to it. So it would be very hard for them to disappear completely and for never to be able to find the art, especially if something has been treated in such a way that it is now worth millions of dollars, for instance, or tens of thousands of dollars. It just takes people to keep it alive.
Obviously, people can right-click Save As anyway, so they can keep a copy.
That's another criticism. Yeah, and that's a common criticism, and the very easy sort of response to that is that you can take a photo of the Mona Lisa, but you haven't got it. And actually, for an artist who releases a one of one, for instance, where there's only ever one copy, the fact that anybody can have it on their phones or put it up or print it or whatever, all that does is it gets it out into the world.
It's marketing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's marketing. They don't have the NFT. If I go to this for a second, this is a little club I made based on the Peterborough Met Lounge. It's got sticky floors and it's got a really horrible toilet. You go in here, and this is some of the artwork that I've bought. These are all pieces that I've bought by various different artists. I've had events in here where I've interviewed artists, and we've gone on some really trippy journeys into sculptures and stuff. So I carried on doing flux in here. That was my old event in Peterborough. I've even added stickers by the artists that have been part of the show, and you'll see here that I can't get up the stairs for some reason. I'm breaking the stairs, probably just too sticky.
Had a few too many.
Yeah. This is Process Smith. This is a piece I bought. He's a Peterborough artist that I helped to get into CryptoArt. And there's a sculpture of meat. Best leave, not go into that one. But that's an artist friend of mine, and I really love what he's doing. It's really cool. And you can see that you can bring 3D art into these spaces as well. This is all free as well. And then this is Jason Duckmanton. He's a Peterborough-based artist. There's a glitch in the video, but that's just because it's in here. And he's just made his first sale to over $2,000 within about 2 weeks of coming into the space, which I knew would happen. So I'm really happy for him. So I've got a server that I help onboard artists. I'll share a link in a bit, and then other people can join us. So so where I was going before the question was. For a start, I've been buying more art than I expected I would. This is some of my collection on Nifty Gateway. I invested nearly 10 grand, but it's worth over 30 grand based on the last sale prices. So a lot of value can come from just flipping other people's art if you want to do that. I tend to hold on to, I've got a few pieces for sale, but I tend to hold on to my art for the long term. I bought this fusion piece down here. Where is it? Here. For $500, and these have been selling for $20,000, and I'm just hanging on to it. Yeah. You can see that they've gone down recently, but I'll show you in a second. This artist is about to release Sotheby's auction house in about 2 days. So that's which is a nice, easy segue into what I was about to say, which is this is being represented in traditional auction houses. So this piece, it's a big story to this, but essentially all you need to know is a digital artist was making art every day, putting it on Instagram for free, never sold anything. And then he took 13 years worth of his art and sold it at Christie's auction house for nearly $70 million a couple of weeks ago. And
he gets then 10% of that, does he? Or
he gets royalties if it gets sold again, yeah. But I don't know how it worked out, but basically he's a billionaire now. And another example is Sotheby's. In 5 days, Pack, who made that cube that I got for $500, he's at Sotheby's auction house. So those are the two biggest auction houses, and they are both using non-fungible tokens. So like I said before, with Tesla and Bitcoin, Ethereum and Visa, now you've got Sotheby's and Christie's selling NFTs. So it's like these are here to stay. They're legitimized by these institutions. A tweet sold for $2.9 million just for a tweet on Twitter, because it was Jack's first ever tweet. So there are people buying what are seen as the artifacts and the old things of the future. You know what I mean? Like, this is the first tweet is going to be historical. It is historical, so people bid for it on auction. Antiques, the antiques of the metaverse, but the metaverse being the broad term used for like this digital sort of frontier. So a few more examples really quickly are some of the big brands over the last couple of weeks, like Pizza Hut, Pringles, Taco Bell, Bratz, all sorts of these. They're all Charmin toilet paper. Everybody is jumping on the NFT bandwagon.
So what do you actually get then if you buy a toilet roll?
I don't know. So there's this massive hype thing going on. I don't know how many people watching this have heard about NFTs. They might have heard it negatively as well. It's been this because of that Beeple auction, and lots of traditional people in the traditional art world turn their noses up to it, and they don't believe it holds value because he was unheard of to them before it was sold. And he is now the third most valuable art sale by a living artist ever. So yeah, if that makes sense. So there's only 2 living artists that have got art more valuable than his alive. So the third ever in the world is an NFT. So that came out of the blue for people. People didn't know fungible was a word, let alone what an NFT was. And neither did I.
And just going back to Beeple, so he only came into the NFT scene kind of December or something, or November, December.
Yeah, what happened was Metageist, who bought my bug that you saw earlier, Metageist contacted them and said, we want to see if we can get you into, I don't know where it's gone, if we can get you into Christie's, and they did it. What's interesting is that Metageist aren't actually the straight white billionaire tech bros. They are South Indian guys from Tamil that came from nothing. So that's an interesting story. And I've been talking to them directly about something I can't actually disclose. It's not going to be, I'm going to be saying anything for $70 million, but they are genuinely really, really lovely people, and they're not what people think they are in terms of like money laundering sort of creeps. So anyone who doesn't understand just thinks there must be some sort of shady thing going on, but it's not really. They're all about the art. Yeah, basically we got to the point where I've had an incredible time. I had a really good 2020, despite everything going on in the world. I think part of that was because I put blinkers up, and there's nothing more distracting than having people like buying your artwork and then reselling it, and then buying other people's artwork and then that changing in price, and having cryptocurrencies that fluctuate up and down every day to just keep you distracted from sort of reality for a while. And this is what I'm going to do. This is me now. It's the best thing I've ever done. I've earned like 6 or 7 times in the last year than I'd ever earned before in my life. But you can see on here, actually, we've got, if you go to CryptoArt.io, you can see about 6,000 artists whose lives have been turned around. You can see I'm at like number 220 in the world out of 6,000, so I did all right. And yeah, made over $250,000 in about 11 months. And this is one of the things about Ethereum that some people don't like, is this data is all out there for everybody to see. But that's just part and parcel of what it is. And this is what I'm working on now. My next nifty drop is on May 3rd. I'm building upon what I've been doing with the 3D pieces. These are called a Cyclops. They are being 3D printed, and they're being used in digital galleries. And they have an augmented reality marker on them that I've designed that is going to deliver further art to anybody who collects one. So this is kind of a bit of an exclusive as well, because no one's really sort of seen this, like not to this extent. What these are going to be in the future is they are going to be delivery devices for art, not only by me, but by other artists. I love the idea that you will be able to have this as a physical item in the real world. It's not going to be colored like this. It's going to be like tarnished bronze. It's going to be cold cast, made properly. It's going to be about the size of like a little bit smaller than a tennis ball. Sits on your shelf. It has an augmented reality marker. And then when you get a message from me, you go and check your Cyclops to see what you've won. And it might be a song by an artist, or it might be a 3D object, or it might be a painting or whatever. So this is a way of staying connected to my collectors. The relationships that you form with your collectors are unlike anything else. People buy your art because they love it. And then they are part of your story, and they are your brand ambassadors. It makes sense for them to look after their investments. They don't want you to fail. They want you to succeed, not like selfishly, but also because they're now part of the journey. So what I'm trying to do is create things that are going to are sort of future proof, that are going to exist in the future, whatever the sort of VR space in the metaverse becomes, which is not going away. Apple are working on a headset now that's due out next year. Facebook own Oculus. They want to get 1 billion people into VR within the next couple of years. So that, I want to be setting myself up as the guy who's doing stuff for the metaverse. So that's why I'm creating things that are going to have. These are going to be the very first Cyclops, but I like the idea that there will be maybe hundreds and thousands or thousands of these in the future. They've all got a unique code. That's your marker. So then you can be drip fed new artwork, or like little sneaky, like work in progress shots of what's happening, or it's basically like being part of a fan club, I suppose, like with loyalty points.
Dominic's just asked how much the Cyclops is. Don't know if you've got pricing.
Oh, I don't know. It's really tricky. I want to keep my work scarce. I want my drop to be. I made 20 grand on the first drop, 40 grand on the second drop, and I want to keep making more, but I want to make it limited. And I've got like some really sort of nice hungry collectors now waiting for the next drop. So I'm not going to be cheap, but at the same time, I don't want it to be accessible. I don't know. The figure in my head is $1,000, but I think I might go cheaper than that. I don't know how many there's going to be. That's going to be largely down to how many physicals I can get made, because I've only got a few weeks. And actually the Cyclopses are only a small part of the drop. I'm doing a really big sort of creepy sort of 20-foot statue for VR based on old money and banks and financial systems blocking people. So that's something that I'm not sharing now, because it's not a point where I can share. But the Cyclopses are part of that. The Cyclopses in that piece at the feet of the statue actually represent marketing and TV and media manipulation. So these are going to be in that piece. They deliver sort of shiny things to keep you distracted from the fact that the government doesn't really care about you. So and it's got a bespoke heavy metal soundtrack. I've got a full band making a doom track for it, by like some of my favorite musicians, because musicians have really struggled with coronavirus and COVID lockdowns as well. So I've reached out and said to them, they get a percentage of the sale if they can create a track, and they've created this amazing like 4-minute doom metal instrumental track. That's going to be part of this.
So just to kind of recap on that. So that one will actually have, as well as the NFT, it'll have a physical that comes with it.
Yeah, that will be a case of, it will look a bit like this one, actually. I forgot I've got this here. It will look like this. It won't be painted as such. It's going to have metal and resin, and it's going to be like bronzed. What's it called? if you imagine like a bronze thing that's been left out and it's got sort of like a green, sort of coppery green tinge to it, it's going to look like an ancient artifact.
Is that like patina?
Yes, patina, exactly. And it's got a sticker on it that I've ordered that's going to have the marker on it. So you'll buy the digital, you'll get the NFT, and then at some point in the future, and we're working on them now. That my 3D print has been posted today, so it's going to get cold cast in the next week or so. Hopefully, the first one, and then we can get a bunch of them done following that. And so you do get a physical, and they don't need to stay locked forever. If you've got the physical and you sell the digital NFT on, you don't necessarily have to send that on to the new buyer. It's up to a discussion between that person and the other. So I think a lot of people quite like the idea of physical, because even if they sell the NFT in the future, they've still got the physical.
It's intangible. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that when it comes to the point where each one's got its own unique AR code, then you're not going to really want to sort of let go of it at all. And that's kind of the point, because you don't know when you're going to get sort of like a gift or something like that from it.
Yeah. Absolutely, keeps on giving, doesn't it?
So, and this was all made in VR as well, and you can see from the style that I want to keep using this thing that shows all of the brush strokes. You can see all of these were formed using my body in virtual reality, and I like that. I want that to be consistent throughout it, so you can just see all of these different marks.
Oh yeah. So Richard's asked earlier. I don't know if you've got the question to hand down. How much time does it take you to create one of them?
Well, I mean,
how long's a piece of string?
Yeah, it's really hard to say. They're longer, a lot longer than you might think. From even this, like the simplest ones. If you imagine, let's take a really simple one. I mean, this one actually took ages, because you've got to tweak it until you're happy with it. It's got to be at the right level of simplicity to be a toy in a pack, but also have a sense of being an animal, but also have something that makes it look like it can only exist in a digital realm. So it's got these floating elements. The gradients on these were all hand painted in Photoshop, but using like digital brush strokes. There's much more of that on these. So you sketch it out, and then you tweak and tweak. Because these are designed to be displayed in VR and held in your hand in VR, then it has to look good from all directions. So you've got to get to a point where none of these things clip into each other, where there's shadows where there should be. The gradients are all going in the right direction. And they look good when they're the size of a 5-story house, but also when they're held in your hand. And all of those like things come into play when you're designing them. I spent days on the Tethys Effigy trying to get this the right amount of refraction to make it look like a glass cube, but you could still see what was going on inside. All of these brushstrokes in the light ray to get them to like flow together but not be messy was like a tough one. And it's all with 2 bright screens strapped to your face, and I work standing up, I work with music on, I use my whole body. None of them were really sketched. They're all like improvised and then refined afterwards, and they've all got like a story. Like Gridweaver, for instance, is an insect that lives in the metaverse, but it creates this sort of web that then becomes landscapes, like polygons of a landscape. So what we'll see with the next Gridweaver is that it's actually created like this like lo-fi, like Tron legacy sort of environment. So I don't know, some of them, the cinematic ones took forever, like these fly through, and the one that I'm working on now, the new Hierophant one, which will be a few grand a pop, I think, to sell, is the same as these. And yeah, you can see where like every brush stroke, you can sort of kind of guess how long it takes. But there's the sculpting, then there's the texturing, then there's the rendering, then there's the video, then there's the editing, then there's the audio, then there's the marketing. And so, like, for instance, things like this, you spend a couple of days designing a packet for something that isn't ever going to actually be put in a packet. You know, it's yeah, it's a full-time job. I don't have a day off, like very, very, very rarely. And also, and this is a really important point, to make it, I think, as a crypto artist, you have to put 50% of your time and energy into the community and into the socials. And that is constant, you know. If someone wants to collect your work and they're asking you a question, you'll answer them straight away. You know, you've got to have this like mutual respect. You've got to be there. You've got to be able to let them into the story, make them part of it. So you're beholden to everybody as well, and also
which is exhausting though, isn't it? It's not like a
it can be.
Turn off from.
Yeah, definitely. That's, you know, one of the downsides is that it's the hardest I've ever worked in my life, but it's also extremely rewarding, and it's a dream come true. It's it's absolutely a dream come true. And now I'm at a point where I'm setting up 2 limited companies and to invest in. One as an artist and one as a property investor, because I'm, you know, financially independent, and you know, it's great for me. I'd never, you know, I was actually really struggling. It was very hard to monetize virtual reality tools. I didn't know if I was just being crazy. I was doing really well as a graphic designer, doing really well as a web designer, and I was just like adamant. I thought, I don't have children, I don't have like dependents. If it goes really badly, then so be it. I can go back to being a designer. But yeah, one of the downsides is actually really hard to switch off from it all, because it's part of this space that is, I mean, like for instance, very quickly, Euler Beats. This is an NFT project. This exists purely on the blockchain. So it's an algorithmically generated music, and you can buy and sell them when you buy them and burn them. I bought one of these for $300, and at one point I could have sold for $100,000. And I didn't, and it's just dropping in value now, but it's still at 7.6 Ethereum. So basically, it's an example of this ecosystem.
14,000.
That's still like 15 grand, dollars altogether. So that's still from a $300 investment, it's a 15 grand. But like I say, it could have been $100,000. So you end up playing these games, and they're incredibly intoxicating, and it's so fast paced, and everything's quite volatile. Like for instance, today, like Ethereum has dropped like by about 10%, you know, and things like that just keep you on your toes. And so it's like, I think I made some notes. What was it? Oh, they're gone now. Jack said something about screen time and stuff, and it can be tiring, can be exhausting. You know, anybody who's done stuff with social media and had to promote themselves across social media understand. But what is great about it is it's something that I'm really, really proud of, and I love it. So it's been incredibly successful. So it's mostly pros, definitely.
Yeah, I think kind of one of the things, Andreas, what you kind of alluded to from Andreas's question, was heading towards like the CryptoPunks, where the actual artwork itself is on the blockchain.
Yeah, so CryptoPunks were the first NFTs on Ethereum.
Actually on the blockchain. Was that the one example you were going to give?
Yeah, they are. So like the Euler Beats music tracks, these are basically, if you've got coordinates and a hex value of a pixel, like a color and a position, then you can put that into some metadata. Then you can recreate these CryptoPunks. They were sold. There was 10,000 of them. They were given away for free about 3 years ago. I think it was 2018. The lowest priced punk is $30,000, and they look like this. This one. $7.57 million. So
why is that one valued more?
It's got some rare traits. So they were algorithmically generated as well, and they've got rare traits. And this has got a bunch. It's got blue skin, it's got a pipe, it's got a flat cap, it's got shades. All of these things mean that it's really rare. None of the others look like this, and it's got historical value because it's on the blockchain. It was the first. They were the first things, and then you can see the transaction history. Again, this is all transparent. 2017, there we go. So that's where the first one, that's where it was born as such. So you've got this weird thing where all of the art, no matter how complex or beautiful or whatever underneath it, everything is being carried by this ideology that these are the artifacts of the future. These are the first things on the immutable blockchain. Blockchain is going to work its way into everything that we do, because it's a transparent, immutable ledger of information, and it can be attached to pretty much anything. And it's just that what's happened and what happens in the real world when a building in the middle of a city becomes empty, the artists move in. And we're at a point now where the artists have moved in. They've been in there a few years. They've done all of these crazy projects. Everyone's made loads of profit, and it's a really rich ecosystem of artists from all over the world. And bear in mind that some of these artists, like for instance in Brazil or Argentina or Venezuela, when they sell a piece of artwork, that feeds their family for 6 months, and it can be a cheap piece of artwork, and they can do it on their mobile phone. So it changes lives. It's changed my life completely. Like I say, it wasn't in the ditch, but I was doing okay. But I'm an example, and I've seen it from people that I've introduced to the space as well. Like Jason, for instance, has just sort of said, I don't know if I can find it, but I've got a Discord here. I've got a CryptoArt help Discord where I've just introduced, answer people's questions, and we all look after each other and sort of help. But we also obviously buy each other's artwork and all that sort of stuff. So you can join that Discord and you can ask me any sort of questions you like as well. And I really
that's a good place for onboarding people that want to get into creating NFTs. Yeah. And there's so much that I haven't mentioned, but of course it's really getting on now, so I should probably wind it down. I was just going to quickly ask, I'll say quickly, but if there's going to be potential divide between physical only artists and then those that are willing to kind of open their mind a bit to NFTs, are you going to get that kind of people that are either stubborn or just aren't, they're kind of tech kind of friendly? And
yeah, I think that's how I think, by being someone who was really excited by this and by technology, I was able to sort of persist through a lot of hurdles. It's it isn't easy. Well, one thing that's really important actually is that if we go back to that chart of biggest earners, Trevor Jones, the second biggest earner, he's not at 19 million, and he's a classic painter. It is oil paintings that he sells. So you don't have to be a digital artist. He's very Bitcoin.
He just takes photos, high res.
Yeah, it's scans. Yeah. He started animating them, and he does things that are Bitcoin related and stuff like that. But there's a Hackatow as well. They're a husband and wife couple, and their stuff is ink drawings. They're at nearly $12 million. So it doesn't have to be digital necessarily. Ferocious. He's 18 years old. And he's made $18 million in a year. And he uses an iPad and paints on canvas as well. So it's not necessarily about any of this digital stuff. You just have to be able to buy a bit of Ethereum on your mobile phone and then send it to a wallet on a browser and then attach your art to a platform, basically, and that makes it sound much more simple than it is. It is quite painful to begin with. It really is. You have to. Yeah. That's why I've got the Discord. One of the reasons I've got the Discord is to sort of help people through it, because it can be quite anxiety inducing at first, and it costs money to just do it as well. So you have to pay a bit of gas on Ethereum at the moment. Gas is like a payment to use the network, and that, because Ethereum is at an all-time high, it's very, very popular. It's being used a lot, and when it's busy, you pay more. So $50, sometimes up to $100 just to get your art. So if you're selling art for cheap, then it's not very feasible. But very, very quickly, there are other platforms where none of that matters, like this one. I'll post. I'm not in the chat, but I'll post it in the private chat, and then someone can stick it up. This is a platform on Tezos, which is like Ethereum, but there's no gas to worry about, and you don't have to apply. You can just jump in and start putting your artwork up. So this is Jason's from Peterborough. This is Kieran Steele's from Peterborough doing his beatbox, capturing his voice using light. And yeah, you can see.
Fantastic.
So yeah, sorry about that.
No, it's kind of, yeah. I mean, I've kind of been aware of this myself, and even kind of with my background, it's kind of still overwhelming. So
yeah.
I have a very quick question. When do you sleep?
Yeah, I don't.
That's it. He just doesn't.
I don't. I mean, I do, but it is bad. It has been bad, especially when I tell you what's really weird. You'd think it would be the other way around, but when it's going really well, you can't switch off from it.
Yeah.
When the Nifty Gateway drop has gone well, and I've made like more money than I ever dreamt of making in a day, and then they're being bought and sold, and you get a notification every time one's sold. Or if you've bought a piece of artwork by another artist, and suddenly they've hit it the big time, and that piece that you're holding. I know two mates, one from Bristol, one from Peterborough. They both bought a piece by Beeple, one for $9.99 dollars, and one for $1. And they've both sold them for over $100,000. And so they've been hanging on to these pieces of artwork. And they said it's the most stressed they've ever been, because they've got this thing and they don't know if it's going to suddenly crash in value or if it's going to go up. So, it's important that we talk about this. It's important that people understand that because it's so intoxicating, and it is predominantly incredibly positive thing. For creatives, it's also when things are going, even especially when things are going really well, you're sort of glued to your screen. So yeah, I've got a drop in May, and then I'm not doing anything for a few months, and I said this to Joff the other day, I'm just gonna have a few months off. But you know what, I can, and that is amazing. I can just not worry. I don't have to worry about it, and I can come back to it and see how the space is doing. But I'm just gonna have a sabbatical and spend some money on the house and sort of make sure that I enjoy it. But you get this.
Deserve it.
You get this fear of missing out, because there's always a new opportunity. Like the new platforms, like this platform only popped up like 3 or 4 weeks ago, and suddenly there's a new platform to sell your art on and to purchase art on, and there's always something new. And it takes a lot to sit yourself down and actually remind yourself that you don't have to be part of everything, even though it's just that you see people's lives, you see people make millions overnight, and or hundreds of thousands, or suddenly make it big, and it's hard not to sort of worry about what you're missing out on. And it all exists in the metaverse. It's all digital. Most of these people don't use their real names. They don't use their real faces. They're using pseudonyms. And there's this really interesting concept of exosuits, where if once I'm dead and gone, somebody else, potentially someone from my family, can become the Metageist, get the keys to my wallet, the passphrases to my wealth and all my artwork and all my collections, and carry on the legacy of the Metageist as an identity in the metaverse. Which I think is fascinating.
Yeah, it really is.
Cool. Right, I think looking at the time, that's probably.
I know. Do you know what I was thinking? It's because we've not got an Andy. He keeps us on track and tells us off and tells us when to finish up.
Yeah, blame Andy. He's not here. Can't defend himself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think it's probably time we can move over to the, I don't know if you want to do social, but I think if we've got any more questions, we can move it over to the social room instead.
Yep, sounds good. Yeah, brilliant.
Thank you, Lee. That was
thanks, Lee.
Amazing. I think everyone in the chat was just transfixed completely, because there was only about 2 questions, because I think everyone's concentrating so hard, taking notes.
Yeah. Yeah, I've gone to bed.
Yeah.
Nice.
But no, so thanks, Lee.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Jackson. Thanks, Louise. And obviously thanks, Dan at Big Orange Heart for making all this happen for us. Yeah, thank you. Everyone do go to Big Orange Heart's website. I think, Dan, you've probably got it ready to post. There we go. Give them your love. Check out what they can offer. Just go there. I think we're going to be back next month, all being well. So
back online, right here, coming to a screen near
you. Same bat time. I think that's everything. So we'll sign off and head over into the chat.
Thanks everyone for coming, and we will see you next month.
Thank you.
We'll do. Cheers.